Okay. Hello, TikTok, if I'm there. Oh my god. Whoopsie. I have to finish uploading that before I can switch over. Here we go. Setting up the live for class in case anyone on TikTok is there. Let me see. Camera. This one. Oh wait, hold on. Start virtual camera. This is wild. Why would it do this? Thank you. Okay. I don't see the actual camera working. So, oh, there we go. All right. I think I'm good to start the live. Okay. And if you all can see me on TikTok, that's great. Start live. Okay. I am listening to Crimson Prayer by Bard. That's not going to work for me right now. AC/DC. That's better. All right. Hello. Okay. Everything's up on Patreon. Hello, everybody piling in. I've got a few things going on at the same time, so let me organize this. Okay, I have... No, stop moving. Okay. I think this will work. I don't know if we are on TikTok yet. Let me see. And if you can hear me, go ahead and give a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. Or just type in, I hear you. That helps too. Okay, I'm going to double check the TikTok live because it should be going. Okay, that is, I think. Go to it. My goodness. Okay, let me see. That is, I think. Yep, I can hear myself. Excellent. Okay. Woo! Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome me back, right? I've been gone. Just been recovering slowly from some type of viral infection. And then I had tons of inflammation. Everything is on fire over where I'm at, and my little spot has been able to avoid most of the harrowing aspects of the fire, clearly. But my goodness, this smoke for a week straight, really couldn't open the windows or anything, and that I was adding to so much of my environmental distress. Oh, my goodness. I'm trying to recover and I can't open my windows. I'm such a fresh air person. So anyways, I'm back. Yay. If my eyes seem very uninterested in looking at you all, wherever you are, there you are. It's because there's so many lights and I'm still recovering. But anyways, I'm so excited to be back. Today is the 30th. We're going to have art club on Saturday. We'll be doing the finals of our maps and stuff. I'm trying to get out a newsletter that kind of clicks to everything, y'all. I'm just getting back. And then on Tuesday, we have part 1 book club for The Wizard of Oz. I really do hope as many people can make it as possible. I know all the reschedulings and stuff like that kind of make it difficult, but I hope so. And so today though, we're going to talk about astrology. Some of the updates. I'm going to throw out some wisdoms that have been floating in the air. There's a book I've been reading recently. I was going to mention that. I've also been reading some other books, and I'm going to mention that. We're going to talk about season 4 over here at the Midnight Scholar Society. Season 3 was kind of like trial by fire, and that seemed to be quite the speed for a few months. I don't know what these seasons are defined by necessarily, besides just general energy. I just get kind of the idea that it's time to move to the next season, and I do. I don't really abide by, like, strict schedules and stuff like that. It's all based on the flow. And so we're moving into season 4, revival. So you'll be able to find all the podcasts and stuff. Any of the recorded lectures that are for everybody will always be there in that season collection, so you can find it easily on Patreon. And then, of course, I'm going to be doing a little bit of different stuff during the live, since I technically record a lot of this stuff on my end. Like I separately record the student FAQ. I'm going to start separately recording a little lecture that comes from my research that I'm finding, and just like a small presentation of some ideas that have been coming up in this, that, and the other. And those would be for members only. But if you're here live, obviously you're listening, so congratulations. But the recording and stuff like that will be for members. So look forward to that. That'll also be in season 4. It'll just be a paid one. Okay, so let's jump into everything. How is everybody? Please let me know in the chat and stuff like that. I'm kind of giving people a little bit of a chance to kind of trickle in, because we've been off schedule for so long. It usually takes a moment for people to get back into swing. What is this song? I don't know what song this is. The Lights Off. I said, ooh. I don't even know what this song really is. It's just really loud in my ear, so I'm looking for the turn down button. Okay, there we go. I was feeling like I was in a rave. I was like, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the, I don't know what rave people talk about. Okay, so yeah, let me look in the chat really quick before I move. A lot of new energy followed by the need to rest. You're telling me. You're telling me. I'm very excited actually to talk about the astrology today, because it is a lot of energy. Like, y'all, I'm kind of having a hard time keeping my eyes open right now because of all the lights. But like, I'm capable of kind of like, mustering to and sitting down and doing work. And then as soon as I'm done with work, I'm like out. I've had a few 101s, which, by the way, I should mention this now before I forget, because I will forget by the end of class. Let me move this up here for y'all. So live 101s. So guys, I accidentally had a coupon code mix up going on my end, and a few people were like, hey, is this coupon code still available? It is for members. You guys, I fixed it. So whatever coupon code you have from any of the posts, it's good to use. So if you were trying to use it and it wasn't working, it should work now. And then for anybody during the lives, occasionally I'll throw up like a 50% off. So here's live 50. Oh, I forgot to set that up. I meant to set it up. It'll be set up by midnight tonight. As soon as I get off, I'll do that. Set up immediately. I'll leave myself that note. I was so busy trying to get my technology to work, because it's like if I don't sit down at the computer, everything falls apart apparently. That's what I can't stand about Windows. Honestly, I'm not going to try to shit talk Windows while I'm on a Windows, but my goodness, I should be able to walk away for however long I need to and come back and everything is running perfectly fine, instead of me having to constantly update and redo stuff. Like, what is going on? Anyways, so that's my Windows gripe, but let me see. Let me move this back down. So yeah, I'm actually really excited to talk about astrology and energy today, because it's been a lot of zoom. Like, it has been all up in the air. And a lot of stuff is starting to fall into place, so I want to talk about that. Life has been super good, but also like super strange. No complaints though. Yeah, I've had tons of synchronicities. I had my breaking point earlier today. I yelled into my journal, and then all of a sudden, everything shifted. I was like, I felt like Mrs. Umbridge or something. Feeling some growing pains. Yeah, I have a remedy, I think, for that. We'll be talking about revisiting jaunts soon. And revival season and turning back, that should help ease some of those. Great day yesterday. Cut out some waste of energy, aligned with better projects. It's really good. How does the South Node in Leo affect Jupiter in Leo during this thing? Ooh, we're going to talk about that. In fact, I will South Node and North Node. We'll talk about that. Did you see the Schumann today and yesterday? My dreams have been crazy. Man, the Schumann has been wild for quite some time. And I'm going to tell y'all, my dreams have all been very vivid. You know, it it helps that I'm reading Carl Jung, so dreaming is at the top of my mind. A lot of my dreams have just been beautiful lie to believe in. That's what it is. I'm listening to 30 Seconds to Mars, A Beautiful Life. A beautiful, beautiful. It's like, it's all been a beautiful, it's like my dreams have been beautiful, but they're dreams. Like there's not, it's like it's a lie to the extent of slipping into a fantasy is. Another 30 Seconds to Mars song, the fantasy. But it's like, man, they've been so vivid. Yesterday, last night, I'm pretty sure I was in a war with like space pirates. I don't fucking know. I mean, that's not surprising when you think about me, and half the shit that I'm like up to most of the time. But still, they were like chasing me down and stuff, and I didn't. I don't know. I was just so irritated, and I was constantly having to like outwit him and stuff like that, and I was just starting to get frustrated, and I think I must have done something kind of sinister towards the end. Anyways, my dreams have been wild. That's a great day yesterday. The full moon was good. The full moon was, oh man, mine's been blood orange. And like the worst of the smoke, it was blood red. Man, it was coming in full and it was just this red thing. Such a beautiful light. It's like it was in the sky was like black. Such a perfect night. Oh, it's like wild. I don't know. This song coming in at that time while I'm thinking about the blood moon is like everything. So beautiful, beautiful. I dreamed a whole episode of the OA last night. I had never finished watching that. I was watching some of it at the beginning, but I just could never really get into the like movement of it. I got distracted, but it was a long time ago. I might revisit. Life has been super good, but also like super strange. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so I think this is us for a little while. Let's just jump in and start getting into the goody stuff. Record. I have to leave a record this part and then record. I wish I could like, oh, I can totally, fucking, there we go. I can hit with the bold. That way I remember. All right, everybody. I think we're good. Let me hit this bolt too. So I have to keep messages for myself while I go. Otherwise, it's not that things disappear. It's just I feel more, especially if you are like self-diagnosed or properly diagnosed as ADHD, it can be so helpful to keep running notes. I like have started having just note cards everywhere. And it's not that like I keep the things unless I need to for some reason. Like I have a diagram on here that's actually for something else. But I jot stuff down on them as I go, and then I toss them as I go. And it's actually very helpful because, there's some things that you can write down digitally, and there are some things that you can write down like a journal. And then there are some things that you just need to get out of your brain and hold on to it really quick. And note cards are really helpful for that. And I have like little stacks in all of the places that I tend to migrate around. I have pens everywhere. That is too. I feel like this is such an old person thing to say. Keep your pens and your note cards around handy dandy. Never know when you need to write down a thought. Felt like being received well by others as I stand my authenticity, but also tower card inside. The tower is you just receiving yourself. Like when you embody yourself fully in front of others, you are having a new experience, which means you have to dismantle your old experience that told you needed to alter yourself. And so that feels like a tower moment on the inside because you're destroying everything that said, we have to do it this way and this way and this way. You now have proof that you don't. You have proof that you can do something else. You can move elsewise. And why is it so like, I don't know. Hello everybody. And then now that you have that proof, you can kind of just live off that. You know what I mean? Like it's your new rebuild where you're just yourself. You'll forget how you used to show up. You'll forget why you were like uncomfortable before and stuff like that. Most definitely letting it all go. And just let it go. Sometimes there's like emotional things that happen inside of you, and you don't need to. You just need to address that it is happening. Like I'm having emotions today. That's oftentimes enough of an address. Because then when the emotion's urging you to snap at something, oh God, I can't believe somebody would say this, that, and you remember that you're having lots of emotions today. And the emotions are just like the old things that are leaving. Like when you're grieving, you have emotions about that. You might think like, oh, why did I used to act like this? Well, there was context for that. You don't need to go through it. It was for a reason. But sometimes we're like, I do this where I'm like, I can't believe I used to think that way. Yeah, and it was for a reason. It was contextual. Like it was a totally different setup, totally different people, totally different environment. And so you had to think this way to navigate it, and that's normal. But it does cause you to be in alignment with yourself, but like not an alignment with where you're headed or where you are now. It's like when you start a project, you're in alignment with a student. When you finish that project, you're more in alignment with a teacher than you are a student. But if you keep approaching everyone like you're a student, even though you've reached the level of teacher, this is like, it's cognitive dissonance. You don't see the value of your education. Other people do. You're downplaying it. Other people are confused why you're downplaying it. Now there's miscommunication. And then you go, oh, I got to stop downplaying this. And then you start playing the role of teacher, right? And then now you don't have that miscommunication. The emotions can be like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed that I did that before. Why would you be embarrassed? The other people didn't know. They were just confused. They didn't know that you were. They just, I mean, like they don't know you. It's not that deep. It's like it was just contextual. It was a moment that you went, "Oh, wow." Right? And you shifted. Sometimes people don't even notice half the shit that's going on inside you anyways. I mean, like half, I would say like 95%. Most people are busy being in their own heads too. So it's like when we're letting go of stuff, it's really good just to, you don't even have to give a narrative. Like letting it go means you're no longer giving it any kind of narrative. It doesn't mean anything. It just was. It just was. And now you are. And then, you go in and out of it. But like, that's why it's so important to practice, not practice grieving, but to acknowledge whether or not you are in a community that actively grieves or a community that grieves privately. Doing finger quotes like my youngest, he does that when he's reading. He's like, yeah, and then he was hiding his friendship. And I'm like, what are you, he's like, clock it, they're hiding it. And I'm like, what is happening here? He's always been doing that when he was a little kid, because we do like finger quotes, and he's like finger quotes. It's so cute. But he's been doing the same finger quotes since he was like 3. And it always means like, like he's caught on. He's like, oh, this is not right. Yeah, so and so. Or he'll be like, and they said this, sure. But anyways, why am I finger quoting? But the point is, yeah, when you realize that you're in a community that grieves privately, it means you're in a community that's probably not grieving at all. You know what I mean? Like it's, oopsie, didn't mean to move that one. Like it's having a hard time processing emotions. There we go. And because of that, um, why? What happens in there? Oh, because because of that, the tower moments, right? It can feel like like something's wrong with you, or something's not going right, or something is happening, and you need to go look at that. And it's like, well, obviously, you are leaving it behind, and you'll go, but no, you don't understand. Like I need to analyze this. No, you don't. You're tossing it out. You can let it go. No, you don't understand. And it's like this is a strange form of grieving. You just clutch onto it and never let it leave your grasp until it disintegrates before your eyes. And that can seem like a horror story. Imagine holding on to a loved one until they disintegrate before your eyes, And they have like a whole Avengers Endgame season. Like, didn't they show people how horrifying that is? Like we don't like that. So it's better to like grieve, because grieving is like, it's actually, it ushers you towards the rebirth, where you are like washing this old thing and up anew is this new thing. It's a beautiful process. Like it depends on culturally like what kind of stories and narratives you have about rebirth, but you can experience the mythology while it's happening to you instead of the narrative that you normally place over it. And that's where spirituality and like belief and philosophy all come together, is how do you make meaning when you're not supposed to, when you're supposed to just see what it is. Some philosophies say to like, that the story is nihilism, and that's kind of insane. And then you've got spirituality. That stands the test of time, myths and fairy tales, because that's where that stuff is, not necessarily religion. Religion is how you go about organizing people, and how they grieve, not what processes they use. That's myth and fairy tale. Um, it becomes alive to you in your interior in those moments while you're experiencing it. And that's why some people can really identify, like I'm like Cinderella, they're like they're experiencing the mythology of their life and seeing it, and they're going, oh, this is like bar for bar, what the fuck. That doesn't mean that you are Cinderella. It means that you are experiencing energetically this moment, and you can understand it that way instead of trying to define yourself by the moment. You define the moment. Now you know how to navigate it. If you define yourself as the moment, then you must experience whatever it is that you're defining, whatever it is that you're telling yourself. If you're telling yourself that you're stupid and you made tons of mistakes, then that whole moment that was a Cinderella story, other people taking advantage, unfortunate events all arriving, and then eventually something great happens, right? Like you could be in the sweeping up cinders part of that story, and if you define yourself by it, then you're like, I'm nothing but soot, I'm nothing but trash, I'm nothing but this. That's what you're telling yourself, when you could just be going like, I'm Cinderella. I can't trust those bitches because they are sabotaging me. Discernment, right? And then you start backpedaling out of the situation, and then you start seeing their stepsister, ugly stepmother features start coming out, and you can see that they really are using you and all this other kind of stuff. You get what I mean? Like you're not defining yourself as the event, you're navigating this. It becomes different like that. Yeah, it's lovely. That's all about letting go. Anyways, let's talk about astrology now. So yes. Let me like highlight this so we know where we're at. All right, okay, here we go. Can you guys see that? I don't know how to make this bigger. I'm in the business of misery. Let's take it from the top. You got a body like an hourglass, you're sinking like a clock. You've had enough time before we all run out. This is Paramore back here. I don't know how to make this bigger. 8 long months. You can set him free. Oh, I don't know how to do it. It's only one for me. Anyways, it's fine. It's fine. I'll figure it out one day. Biggest smile. I don't know hotkeys on here. Oh, what did it do? Okay, it's fine. We'll bold this and make it look. Maybe I can highlight it. This is how I highlight it. There we go. All right, you guys know where we are. Okay, so let us talk about, Paramore. Didn't you have red hair at some point? That's some very Leo shit. So Jupiter and Leo, I wrote this down. So these are all my notes that I wrote down earlier today. You guys can read them if you want. It's probably going to sound like gibberish to you. They're just notes to remind me to talk about stuff. But Jupiter is in Leo, is begging us all to come out and play. And yes, he's doing it while the globe is on fire because he's all about flair and dramatics. That was my thought, right? So Jupiter in Leo is an expansion of the energy that causes you to just come out. Okay, so by the energy that caused you to come out, I want you all to think about a time where you were in a conversation and you just felt really compelled to be heard in the conversation, to speak in it. Like you know something and you really want to share it with everybody, or you know something and you know that if you share this, everyone's going to be like, "Whoa, we didn't know about that." Right? You feel compelled to add something. You feel compelled to share something. You feel compelled to be the center of the spotlight. That's essentially what it is. And that's not necessarily like an ego thing. You like a lot of people get wrapped. Okay, I should say this. over the years, and it has always been like this to some degree, the reaction to being the center of the spotlight is varied. Some people are in awe, and some people absolutely hate your fucking guts for standing in the spotlight because it casts them in a shadow. Now, other people's perceptions have nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. That's the thing about the lion, is you have to be strong enough to realize that the sheep don't matter. You are just supposed to be roaring right now. Can you imagine if the lion was like, I don't know if I should roar? What if the sheep think I sound funny? Or what if the sheep think I'm being too loud? Or what if the sheep get scared again, as they always do, even though I'm eating gazelle and I don't even eat sheep? What if the sheep think that I'm being too big for my britches? What if the sheep see me fail? What if I don't roar loud enough? What if my roar is not great enough to attract the right lions? That's not what the lion's thinking. The lion's not thinking about that. The lion's just like, "Arr!" Their roars are actually not, I think it's the tigers that roar like big and mighty and stuff like that. Hollywood is so bad for constantly like dubbing animals, they're like, oh, the eagle doesn't sound like "Quack," that's a hawk, it's like that whole like broad loud sound that pierces, that's a hawk. Eagles sound like "Arr!" or something like that. I don't fucking know. And lions are pretty wimpy in their roars too. Tigers are the ones that you normally think of when you hear the the MGM sound. That's that one. Is that might have been Universal Studios, not MGM. But anyways, the lion roar is technically a tiger roar. But the point is that, listen, even with the lion roaring, my ears started ringing at this lion roaring. Yeah, well, even I want to say this, even whether the lion's roar is wimpy or full or this or that, he's not concerned. That's how unconcerned the lion is. Lion's unconcerned. Everybody else is the one that's thinking about him. He's unconcerned. He's just fucking taking a nap probably and trying to bum a meal off of a broad. You know what I mean? That's about it. So I just want you all to take that in mind as I talk about Leo energy, because Leo energy is all about the compulsion to be in the spotlight, and that compulsion when it comes from joy, which is the sun, and joy are what's the word I'm looking for? Like they mean each other. The word that I'm looking for is not coming up. But joy and the sun are very God, I keep trying to say like cognizant, but that's not the word. They're oh, they go together. Okay, they're like equals. One of them represents the other. Joy is like a symbolic, the sun is a symbolic image of joy. There you go. Like sunflower, sunshine, joy, all of those bright yellow, those words tend to joy also tends to encompass the colors yellow, green, and blue, because we're thinking of a bright and sunny day on a green field. That's abundance on a blue sky, right? So joy is really representative of like also the rainbow, which comes out after it's rained, when the sky is like, well, rainbows come out even when it's not clear, but once the sun has come out you can then see the rainbow. So the sun brings joy, and so when you act from a place of joy, you are compelled to just arrive. You're compelled to arrive. Here I am. That's Aries, but it's like here Aries says I am, in the Leo says here I am. There is no, like, all eyes on me, essentially. It's also the feeling of an apex predator. Apex predators demand your attention in such a way, whether they are doing something or not, simply because they say, here I am. And your body said, I needed to know that. All eyes on you. I don't trust you. Right? There are two modes of Leo that can feel kind of scorpionic in some aspects and very Aquarius in other aspects. And one is the kind that creeps up behind you. That is a shadow Leo. That's a Leo that has less power or compulsion, or I should say, has less energy, but seeks to be on that stage, seeks that attention. It comes up behind because it cannot overpower. And so that's a shadow Leo. And there can be all sorts of things that come from this, like envy, yada, 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 right? And then there's the lion energy that's very much like the bear in Aquarius. When it's in front of you, you see it, you face it, And when you do that, you gain wisdom, because it's something, when you face your fear, or that, because it comes off as fear, when you know that you have met a power more compelling than your own, fear immediately comes up because you were cast in a shadow. And in that shadow, you understand that you are being compelled to either meet that energy or to go deeper into the shadows. And so to cross that threshold, you have to face it. When you face it, you have wisdom. This is when Leo faces Aquarius. There's a wisdom that's gained because you're able to learn from something that has more than you. So this is like the power of influence. That's why influencers are so powerful, because they have more insight in some way, shape, or form, depending on the context, and that compels you to pay attention. That's why teachers stand on podiums, and preachers stand on podiums, and politicians stand on podiums, and commanders stand on podiums, and who else stands on podiums? Anybody on a soapbox stands on a yeah, but that's why all eyes on that center stage is because of power. I'm going to talk a little bit more about power as we go. I feel like you're talking about me. Everybody has Leo energy. Everybody is, by definition, somebody who is compelled to stand. It's just, are you standing in the light or in the shadow? And both are necessary. The shadow Leo isn't necessarily a underdeveloped Leo either. It's because that means that it knows when to be quiet. So the shadow Leo is the one that creeps up behind. This is the, I would say, the negative, the one that's like, kind of corrupted. You know what I mean? Like you might want to check some stuff. But the powerful Leo is either facing something greater than it, or is the great thing, and it is facing itself. So it's always, in some way, shape, or form, facing something greater than it. When you face yourself, you are technically facing God. You're not necessarily facing you. You are facing the world, or the universe, right? Or whatever you want to put there, but it's some sentient creature and being that is bigger than you. It is the collective of all when you are one. So when you are facing that, you are in the shadow and it is in the light. When you are facing yourself, you are technically in the shadow and you are also being brought into the light. It is a continuous thing. It's not just a you are light or you are dark or you're good or you're bad. It's none of that. It is literally just a movement from light into dark. Now, are you doing it cuddled away, or are you doing it face on? If you do it face on, you'll see stuff, you'll learn stuff, and you know how to step forward. If you get shoved out on stage, you'll probably fall on your ass, and then you'll have a hard time figuring out where you're supposed to go and stuff, because people are laughing and you're scrambling around on the floor and you're panicked and you're freaked out because you don't even know what's going on. And then you go, oh yeah, that's right. And then you just run off stage because it's better than like trying to overcome the humiliation. You see, that's what happens when you're like when you have to be forced into something. You sometimes have to go through that. When you step out into it, you are facing the humiliation head on and just moving into a flow, so instead of being like hit by it. And that matters. None of us like to be humiliated, like caught off guard, right? You like to at least be able to like say, you know what, I can laugh at myself. You ever slip and fall out in public? You can either stomp off like home or something like that, angry, or you can accept that, sometimes you are the class clown. Sometimes you are what's funny. Like make yourself a little comedian in the moment, sort of thing. So that's Leo energy, and it's really important to understand that with Leo, because it's power. It's power. Leo is power. And how you struggle with power is how you're going to struggle with Jupiter, because Jupiter expands that. Jupiter just says, here it is, and here's more. And it's direct right now, I believe, isn't it? I don't have my iPad, so I can't check. But I'm pretty sure it's direct. I think only Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, yeah, are retrograde. Everyone else is... Sorry, it's Rihanna. So, anyways, everyone else is direct, I think. But yeah, Jupiter is direct, which means that Jupiter is in your external field. So what I mean by that is, you have an internal self, and I'm going to get deeper into this later when we cover the turning back. It's a method for being able to go in yourself and out into your shadow, your interior, and into your exterior, your light. How do you go between interior and exterior, building that out and stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you have an interior self and you have an exterior self. Your exterior self is how you interact with the outside life. Other people perceive that and then do what they will with it. Okay. You cannot control how other people perceive you. You can try. That's called like manipulation. And generally, there is slap back for that, as in feedback that comes from altering yourself in ways that were unnatural, because then you do not experience or get your natural experience, which has kickback. Because it means like it's like going to a restaurant and you order food and then you get charged for more food than you ordered. That's a kickback, right? What the fuck? Well, what if I told you that the chef made more because he figured you just pay for more if he gave you more, and he figured he'd just pressure you into it, right? No, you're going to get upset or irritated or not purchase it or not buy it. And some people will just get out and walk out and be like, well, since you're trying to charge me for extra, I don't have to pay for anything. We're both in the wrong, right? Like, this is creating a lot of friction, in other words, and friction causes kickback. So, not me and the chef going at it. I'm sorry, hold on. where have you? Oh my god, I love this. I can't sing that though, not with yogurt in my throat. Oh my life. This is very much that, you know, the song, the Rihanna, where have you been all my life? You know, that whole, like, it's a huge anime edit. I love it. But it's a trending song on TikTok. That kind of build up, where have you been all my life? And it just keeps going and it keeps going, and it's kind of got that electric sonic sound, and then it finally hits a downbeat, and it's like a very ravey like song. That's Jupiter and Leo. You're either meeting that energy or you have a headache because you don't like to go to raves. You get what I'm saying? You don't want kickback and energy that's pushing like this. Because if you practice kickback in it, if the energy is doing this and you're kind of off beat and you're hitting it weird, you're going to get headaches. You're going to get tension. You're going to get all sorts of weird, I don't know, distortions. There we go. Distortions of reality. Because your emotions, your logic, and what's happening are all off track. That being said, the energy is going to keep going. So either you will end up syncing up with it, or you will be bouncing around until you sync up with it. But Jupiter is a massive type of energy that's not going to, it's not going to wait for you. Jupiter is not. Jupiter is like, I tell people all the time. Well, now I've been saying this recently. Don't seek, just know. When you seek something, you're chasing it down. And that's wild. You know, it can get to be like a quest and shit like that, and you're chasing something down. That's Jupiter. Jupiter will chase you fucking down. It's relentless. If you think about Zeus, Zeus is like a distorted energy of Jupiter because it's Greek. A lot of the Greek myths are a distortion in some way, shape, or form, but just like everything is a distortion of what is, it's a subjective truth. But the Greek version of this type of energy is the best to explain being chased down relentlessly, because Zeus energy in the Greek mythos, whatever Zeus wants, Zeus gets. And Zeus will evade consequence, take on consequence, still do the same thing over again, and chase until he creates lots of problems. That's kind of like the overextended what happens when you're out of alignment but also seeking and chasing something in this energy. I'm thinking in terms of like Thor is kind of an energy that's outside of the Greek mythos, but he's also relentlessly, I don't know what I was going to say, he's relentlessly stupid. Just, from the myths that I've read, Thor has a propensity for, it's not stupidity. It's like Aries energy. It's kind of foolish and lighthearted, but also incredibly strong and can destroy. It's very meatheady. Masters of the Universe, He-Man. That movie just came out. It's a terrible movie, but like, it's like got nice colors. It has a nice budget. I'll say that. You said I have a headache at the moment. Yeah, yeah, I know. I keep getting them as well. And so, I'll go back to that in a minute because I don't want to give anybody alarm. It's not like you're totally out of alignment. Your life's terrible if you have a headache. It's more like we are shifting into so much fucking. We're shifting from one energy flow, with the nodes and stuff like that. Jupiter. We've got the barbel basket. That's a whole fucking like sextile that and a whole fucking energy box. I don't want to call it. It is. It's like a box. It's like a one of these astrologers I like listening to. She was like, it's like a box with a hole in it because it's got Chiron down there at 0 degrees Taurus, just in the middle of this whole basket, and it is. It's like a hole. Um, but it's like we're going from that energy, right, into this bigger than life on a stage, while also the south node moving into Aquarius, and this is where things get bumpy and strange. So, if you're suffering from tension and all that kind of stuff, that's fairly normal, just going from like legitimately flowing on one frequency, and we're like, okay, dodging this, moving here, to all of a sudden, what the fuck, I'm at a rave now. Like, bitch, can you at least set up a transition? What's the transition song between these two things? It's kind of like going from, I know, a bard playing on a flute in the forest. um Probably not. But anyways, you get the point. It's like going from one genre of music to a fucking rave, and that can be a bit jarring, you know what I mean? Or if you're just listening to just general music and something really loud comes on, you're going to be jarred. But the jarring, eventually you level it out. So don't be too worried if you're like, I've got all sorts of tensions and stuff. Yeah, that's just, I don't think that is unavoidable. Like, legitimately, the globe is on fire. It's just like, think about Thor as a really good example of Jupiter energy and the Norse space. So, um, he's really like rambunctious. I mean, he'll do like anything. I think once he dressed up to trick someone. I don't remember what him and Loki always get up to like some weird shit. But it's like, they're destructive, but for the family. Like, this is endearing unless you're not family. And even if you are family, this might not be so endearing, actually. Like, they're dysfunctional. So this is like a Thor who has a hammer and the disposition of sometimes like a toddler in the body of a grown man who has the sensibilities of a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. There's a little bit of a difference. A 17-year-old um white boy. You know what I mean? Like, you got to keep your eye on that sort of a thing. Like, and then you start wondering if you should even be in the same proximity to keep an eye on that, because this could be a massive problem, or it could be a great time. Depends on how he responds to his liquor. You know, like, he could be joyful and jolly or not. That energy is, man, that's like the South Node kicking around down there. The South Node says, are you going to rise to an occasion? Do you know how to like embody this energy without catching fire of everything around you? Or are you just going to catch fire of everything around you? The globe is on fire right now. And if you look at where it's on fire, it's very telling too, to me. Um but if you just look at like what's happening, you can see that, like, you're going to feel tension regardless of whether you're in alignment or not, because you're shifting. I mean, like, man, it's kind of hard to explain this because okay. So the globe's on fire. That creates a weather system in itself. Like over in France, it's, it's so bad and dry, and their climate's not usually like this, so everything's really bad. The fire has created its own little weather system to where when it rains, it's so hot and it's so humid now from the fire that it'll rain, but the rain evaporates before it hits the ground. So that's kind of where they're at in France when it comes to like the global fire of things. And that's kind of what I mean about moving from like there's a shift in energy going from one frequency to another, and this new one has its own weather system. And the faster you get in sync and you acclimate to that weather system, the more you can then shift and change and do what you need to do. Now that's obviously a metaphor, right? But you cannot navigate a fire if you don't know anything about fires. If you can look at the weather system, then you can navigate this. You can say, well, this will be fine, or Jesus fucking Christ, I should get out of Dodge. Get out of Dodge, or like, can I breathe? I know that I can feasibly breathe outside, but is this good for my lungs? What do I do? Where do I go? You start navigating that. And a good example of that for me right now is I noticed how many people were kind of still having to navigate life in my general area, where like the air was bad. Like it was in the 200s. When you want to talk about the I forgot what the index is called, but it was like in the 200s, like 90 is bad. 200s is like, it feels lethal. Like, geez. Now you can see outside. I mean, like the color is pretty yellow and stuff like that. When you look at the sun hitting shadows and stuff like that, it looked really bad. But the amount of people that I saw with kids out there, walking around, without mask and stuff like that, it's kids. Like, yeah, it looks bad and you can breathe, but do you know what you're breathing? Do you know what's going into your lungs? Do you know that what you can't see can fucking harm you? That sort of a thing. That's the transition. Are you paying attention? Do you know that what you can't see can impact you? And are you taking precautions for that? The South Node says, I don't need to. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Like it's the my personality that shadow sometimes takes over. Whereas the North Node in Aquarius is asking all that Leo energy to face the actual thing that's in front of you and then learn and like do that on stage, meaning it's go time. You gotta it's not even, man, I was gonna say trial by fire. That was last season, but it really is. This one is trial by fire. It's like it's go time. You must show up and face the things, face your mountains to climb. If not, like in my mind's eye, I just see someone like kind of getting licked by fire on their ass, and they're like, and they're, scooting around and kind of freaking the fuck out. Um, because they don't know how to collect it. They don't know what to do with it. They were just going to ignore it, or they were just going to stick to the old programming, or get on stage and perform rather than be, I am here, right? I am here, that sort of a thing. Okay, I think that's, for the most part, that's about it when it comes to like Jupiter and Leo and where the nodes are concerned. Because again, a lot with it when it comes to the North Node and South Node. The North Node is when it's in Aquarius and stuff, it's just asking you to um it's asking you to look at the bigger picture ultimately. You know what I mean? Like, how do you fit in the bigger picture? And like, can you express yourself there, please? Rather than think, I'll leave it at this. Think in terms of social media. There are two camps of people. They're gonna be the people who want to stand out as an individual to get attention. And then there are the people who there's a bigger picture going on, and they know where they are in that bigger picture, and they're just focused on that. They're just focused on being in that picture, doing their function in that picture. Like why are you here? That's the vision quest. What, and vision quest is Aquarius stuff too. So why are you here, right? And I am here, and then whatever your answer is, that's Leo energy. You're answering with I am here too, and then you've got the rest, right? You're like, I was gonna say affidavit. That's not the right word. You got your agenda that follows. South Node Leo, the thing that the energy is asking you to let go of is saying, um, me, 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 me. Me, 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 pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, me. It's like, what does that even mean? That's the question. So Jupiter is amplifying whatever people are saying. A lot of people are gonna be like, pick me, pick me, pick me. And the answer to that is I don't know what the fuck that means. And there's another camp that says, well, I am here to this, and this. And then the person at the reception desk, we'll call that Aquarius node, is saying, okay, please go to building E. And on the second floor, you're going to find exactly room 102. Yes, that's where you go. And you go, okay, thank you. Thank you. My natal north node is in Leo. That's okay. No, but like, so when your nodes are opposite that, it just means that this is probably going to feel like a reprieve for you to some degree, because where you excel is where everyone else is trying to figure out and do how do I get to where I'm trying to go? Me. You are like having to say, well, I can be picked. You know, like your south nodes in Leo are your north nodes in Leo, right? Your north nodes like, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. And you're like, oh, I don't see what the point of having to raise my hand. Like, yes, I can also do this. Yes, I'm here. North node, or south node. Wait, your south node's in Aquarius, right? Your south node in Aquarius says, I'm used to being like the answer. I don't need to celebrate it. Like, it just is. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. And North node Leo says, please raise your hand. Please start raising your hand. Please get out on stage instead of always being in the back crew. Like, if you can sing, oh, here's a great example. And I'll phrase it as a story. When I was doing the musical, it's like 12 years ago or something like that. I was doing a musical, it was for charity and stuff, and we were doing The Little Mermaid. And I was directing, and I had a lead, Ariel, right? She got like laryngitis or something. I don't know, something was fucked up. She couldn't sing. So like no one else could sing at all her part. Like that's why I picked her, because she was like she was obsessed with Disney. I used to live in Orlando, so for me, I used to hang around all the Disney kids, like the people who would go on from high school to be like Disney princesses and stuff. Yeah, they went to my high school and stuff, and I played at like Universal for band parades and stuff. I also played at Disney for parades. So like we were kind of like the Disney would just hand select children to pay cheaply to do things that other people really value. So, I had heard all about the Disney Princess pipeline and shit like that. So I knew all of that stuff like back when I was like 14 or something like that. I was like, man, it sounds like that sucks. And they'd be like, yeah, it's kind of shitty. I knew one of the Tiggers, and yeah, he was also fired, and he was weird. He should have never been hired. He used to play with our bass drum, and I was really good friends with his brother, and he was a weird guy. Anyways, I digress. So this girl, she was very Disney, very Disney. Okay. And she was perfect for Ariel. I legitimately typecast picked her. I was not shy about that. I told everybody, you're typecast. You walk around like this, so it's just easy for me to select you to play that character. And you will deliver because this is kind of who you are already. But she lost her voice. Nobody else could sing it. So I was just got on stage. I'm the director. I'm also doing music as far as like behind the scenes, turning on songs and stuff like that and getting things going. So then I have to go run out on stage and sing the song. Okay. This is me having to run out on stage and sing the song and deliver and stuff, which I did. Apparently, I made these Japanese women cry. It's still, I hold that dear to my heart. Oh, that dear. Do you know how hard it is to get Japanese people to be emotional and then like express their emotionality towards you as a stranger? It's, we were in the country where people are a little bit more lax, but still, I take that as pride and joy. Anyways. Me going from backstage. I'm technically north or south node Aquarius energy. I'm very comfortable running behind the stage. I know how to do the singing. I can do all the dancing. I could have done that whole play just on a one person act and been a phenomenal, simply because I'm just trained classically like that in performance art. So I can do that. Does that make sense? It's easy for me. So I don't yearn to be on the spotlight. I don't yearn to be in that Leo energy. North node. You said your natal North Node is in Leo, right? Yeah, yeah. I don't yearn to be in Leo energy. Now, having to go out on stage is legitimately me being placed, if my that's a very South Node energy, saying, please go out on stage. Please get on this stage. And me being like, oh God, okay, here we go. I don't want the limelight, but here we are. I am needed in this moment. That's North Node Leo energy. So during this whole thing, while people are North Node Aquarius, they're having to go backstage and learn how things go because everyone thinks that they can be on stage. Everyone thinks that they can get attention. Everyone thinks that they know the answer. They're all having to learn to go backstage and actually see that maybe they don't have the influence that they think that they do. They all have to go into the shadows. And you are asked personally to go out on stage. So this whole shenanigan is going to feel a little bit more relaxed for you. Because it's like, okay, people being forced to go into the shadows, everyone's uncomfortable about that. You're used to it. If anything, you got to be like, oh God, you got to maybe check your attitude towards people who were complaining. Because you might find that irritating. Like, oh my God, it's like, geez, calm down, people. Backstage is perfectly fine and fun. Just find the thing to do. Stop like crying, right? But the moment someone's like, hey, we need you out on stage, you might be like, wait, what? What? Aren't we supposed to not be on stage right now? Aren't we supposed to? No, no, you are. You are. You are. It's your time to shine. So just know that when you're being tapped or you feel compelled, go ahead and take the like, if I'll give you an example. If you're like in a classroom setting or something, and a teacher asks the question and no one's raising their hand, they're all in the shadow, but you have like this idea, raise your hand and share your idea. Just raise your hand and share your idea. That's your energy. See, everyone else is naturally being dimmed, and you might think your idea is crazy, left field, and strange and weird, and they go, "Oh wow, I never thought of it that way." And then your idea added something totally new to the group. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of how that works. All right. Let me see. Not me having my neighbor's dog barking like wild animals as you talk about lines. Ariel lost her voice in the story too. Oh yeah, actually, isn't that funny? She did. That's hilarious. Oh my god, I bet you sometimes I knew that the woman that I had play Ariel, we were all pretty young and in our 20s and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure she thought that I was like, you know, I don't know, like she had such a terrible attitude about it. I think she thought, she really was like a Disney princess. She really, in her mind, she was very special. And I think in that moment, she found out that it was just a job. It takes a little bit of the dazzle away. That's kind of the hard thing for people who really yearn to be in the spotlight and they glamorize acting and stuff like that. Is for them it is a dream, and for the rest of us it's a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? We're like, all right, everybody, clock on. Hey, everybody, okay, like like singing, being talented. Everyone's talented when you're on stage. Like that's kind of the point. You don't want to be on the only talented person on stage. That's means for a bad production. Everybody is talented. The point is that everybody is talented in their own way, and so they brings them all together, and magic happens. And yeah, she was not happy about that. She was definitely she was definitely not happy to be put in the shadow. Oh my goodness. It was kind of funny. Um yeah, yeah, her energy was just so bad for the whole weekend. She was just so upset. And it was the next day, and everyone was really placating to her feelings, cuz it was obvious that she was upset, and nobody wanted to point out that maybe she was upset because I was good at it and she wasn't the only person that was good at it, like her dream was bubbled a little bit. And in trying to protect her feelings, I think they harmed her further because like I'm always here. My thing is, I came back and I was like, okay, can you sing? And she was saying, well, I don't know if I sound good. I was like, well, the question is, can you sing? Like, how do you feel? And she didn't want to answer the question, and all of a sudden everybody starts going, you can do it, you can do it. And I'm kind of looking at these people like, this isn't the time to like lift up her spirits on the slight humiliation she has suffered, because she was one of those people that always talked behind her back and stuff too. It was terrible. I know she must have talked up a storm about this and that and this and that, and then all got egg yolk on her face in that moment. And I think they were all trying to help her save face. And I'm sitting here like, well, this bitch has laryngitis, guys. If you force her to save, you're only harming her. And so she was like, I think I can do it. So she sang during rehearsal. It was absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. And everyone does a standing ovation. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, I guess I can. And I was like, as long as you feel like you can, you're good. I didn't want to do it. It was a whole, like, you see, and I say all that to also highlight like what happens when you get into the whirlwind of wanting so bad to be on stage, to be seen, to be heard, to be this, to be that, rather than just being. Right? When you are being, you hit a different register that takes you from amateur to like professional, that takes you from somebody who wants to do something to somebody who does it. And it was such a disservice to her because in her own head, she was locked into harming herself essentially. And I wasn't going to step in. We're all grown adults. And that's that moment too. It's like a lot of people, man, I do that to people all the time too, because I have such a mature demeanor about me. Like, obviously now I was going to say I'm very old. I'm closer to 40 than I am 35. So let's just take it there. But back then in my 20s, I'm the same exact way now as I was then, except for maybe now I'm kinder with my words. You know what I mean? I was just a little bit more rough then. But that being said, I think, there was a moment where she thought I was going to save her and say, no, 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 your voice, that's, you take care of that. And it's like, I'm not your mom, and I'm not I'm the director of the play. Like, yes, I'm going to urge you to take care of yourself, but I'm not going to cross over agency and tell you what you can and can't do. And you should also let other people like lift you into it. Anyways, yeah, there was some time later she came back and apologized because she had to direct a musical, and then she realized how hard it was, and she came back and, can we talk? Sure. And then she brought over food and apologized. And I was like, hey, you don't have to apologize to me. I don't care. I don't give a fuck about your feelings then. I don't care about them now. Like, we were just in the production, my dude. Like, it was just a job. It's just a job. Anyways. Okay, so let's continue talking about power, but from a different angle. Because, we're, oh my goodness, I better hurry up. Yeah, so power from a different angle. So here's some practical things that I'm going to suggest, and they're going to come, some are going to come with a little bit of anecdotes and stories from earlier today. But number one, revisit old jaunts or haunts. Revisit old jaunts or haunts. Now, the reason why I'm going to mention this to you is this message came up to me in like 3 different ways and 3 times a charm. The first time my son came into to my room and he told me, "Hey, you want to guess what I'm going to be for Halloween?" We were talking about something else. I have no idea. And I was like, sure. First thought that came to mind was Ghostbusters. And I was like, he was already a Ghostbuster. I won't pick that. So I was like, man, just tell me. He's like, you have to guess. So I just do a throwaway guess. I'm like, a cat from the book you're reading. And he looked at me like, that's stupid. And I was like, okay. I told you I didn't want to guess. And then guess what he says? He says Ghostbusters. And I was like, damn it, I really should have. But the reason why he said it, he said, it's funny. I was Spider-Man twice. He's like, I was a Stormtrooper twice. He said I was a Grim Reaper twice. And this time, he's like, I'm going to be a Ghostbuster, and that'll make 2 times. And I was like, I was like, that's interesting. Why do you think that's happening? He's like, I have no idea. And then that was just it. And so that stuck with me. I just thought it was kind of cute. And then towards the end of the school day, my son and my husband and I were all having a conversation about literature that he's reading. He's reading Lord of the Flies, and he just finished Hunger Games, so he read those 2. And we were talking about math as well, and he said, "Oh, do you guys ever revisit stuff just for fun?" And we were like, "Yeah." I mean, me and my husband look at him and we're like, "We have to revisit everything because of you guys." Like, yeah. It comes up in life, like revisiting old things. Because I haven't read Lord of the Flies yet completely, but my husband has. So, he was talking to him, during the literature portion, and I was setting up like a little writing prompt and stuff like that for him. And it got me to thinking, or we were talking about how going back and reading something a second time, you have a totally different viewpoint and vantage point on it, and how, that adds to things. Okay, so that came up. And then the third thing that came up, and I'm going to come back to the Lord of the Flies and the Hunger Game thing because of power, a really like interesting comparison that came up. I just want to mention. But the third time that it came up for me is I was outside. We were thinking about opening up all the windows, so I was like, well, let me go outside first, see if I can convince the wind to blow. I did. Just being outside, the wind started blowing. I was like, oh, I'm magical. Um, but as I was outside, I'm getting lots of as the wind's hitting me, I'm getting all these different ideas, and these songs come up from a Chinese drama that I've been watching. And one of them, I realized that I was living bar for bar. My whole life, bar for bar, seemed to be playing out based on the drama that I had seen. And this is what I mean when I said the mythology, it lives, right? If you are experiencing an emotion that you don't understand, sometimes what's best is to read fairy tales and mythology. These are stories of old. Now, anytime you read something contemporary, you're going to muddy your waters. The older stuff that you read, the more that pattern has been completed in history that you can then understand the pattern. The closer to time it is, the harder it is to decipher the pattern because you're too close to the tapestry. Now, that being said, when you do old ancient stuff, right, the patterns, they really show themselves to you. And the Chinese dramas that I were watching, they were old mythic ones. And so this myth shows up for me, and I'm seeing beat for beat for beat for beat for beat. And then I get to the end of the drama, and in my body, I wanted to scream, and then what? And then I saw the end of the drama, and it's the last step. And I almost wanted to deny that it was like there in front of me. That's actually where I had gotten the idea about power and facing it, because the story was about someone that came head on towards the main character. And it was so funny. A wasp came flying and it flew head on towards me. And I was like, what the fuck? And then it flew off. But it was a head on thing. And in my mind, Plutonian energy, I tell you guys all the time, sometimes it's like an energy that stalks up behind you. If you feel like something is stalking up behind you, there is no need to turn around. Just leave it in the past. It's like, wait for me, I'm coming home. Wait for me. You know that Hades town? I'm coming, wait for me. I hear the walls repeating, echoing something. Sounds like something. Anyways, I can't remember the words of the song, but I think it's the Orpheus and Eurydice. He has to leave and he can't look back, and if he does, she will disappear, right? Um you have to go through the cave and exit, and you cannot look back. The looking back is to give credence to what you feel is powerful because it's at your back, but that means it is weaker than you. I just watch Hades Storm. Hades Sound. I hear the walls repeating the echoes of our song. It sounds like drumming. Oh no, that's the echoes of our feet. It sounds like drumming. And we are not alone. Something in the home. Anyways, I can never remember the lyrics to that song, but it's such a powerful song. I also listened to someone sing it to the background of wait. The Hamilton one. Wait for it, wait for it. Anyways, they mashed that and it was great. Anyways. And it seems like there's another song that's playing right now. What is this? Believe, still believe. That's so funny. Anyways, the message to that is you have to okay, when you feel like something is at your back, it is because it is weaker than you. So instead, face forward and let the stronger thing that you face you. Something that walks at you in full strength is honest. That is the greater of two things. Something that walks into you is true strength. Something that lurks up behind you recognizes that you have more strength than it. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it doesn't need to hide itself. If it can step on you like you're an ant, it's not going to hide itself. I don't hide myself from ants. You know what I'm saying? I don't think about them like that. But like a cougar, like a big old cat, I'm gonna have to stalk up behind that motherfucker and run, right? And do something. And I know, like, cats, they stalk and stuff from behind until they're ready for you to see them. They're just placing themselves in an advantageous position until they're ready for you to see them. So, the point is that always wait for the energy that comes directly at you. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about that and how all that kind of comes together is when you revisit old stories, first of all, you will find new lessons. So, I don't know what it is that you all have been interested in recently, but if something comes up again, like a book and you read it before, but it comes up again, just go revisit it. You don't even necessarily, it's like, the journey is worth it. It may not necessarily be that you reread the whole thing. You might open up a book to a certain chapter and that it's right there for you. I don't know what it is, but do go revisit old haunts and jaunts. And haunts, I just mean something that was haunting, but you learned the lesson. Okay. I don't mean go revisit things that are unsettling to you. No, go revisit things that haunted you until all the lessons were learned, right? Like a story that stayed with you. Turn your face towards the sun. Yeah, the Rihanna. Let the shadows fall behind you. I love that one. I also like oh, there's another one on that soundtrack. It's about wolves. I always listen to it, but I can't remember it right now. Okay, so now on the second part of that power, I'm gonna revisit Lord of the Flies and Hunger Games. Let me see, let me see, let me see. Lord of the Flies. Let me do this really quick. Discard. No, don't do that. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to yell. Lord of the Flies. Okay. Okay, I think I did that one. Oh my god. Okay, okay. Oh, this one. Let me see, let me see, let me see. Oh, there we go. You all know what I'm talking about. The Hunger Games there. Okay. Oh, you all cannot see over here. I'm so sorry. Let me go add this one. Can I do two at the same time? Oh shit, not like that. The fuck? Sing a little stream for me. Okay, there we go. We got one here. Okay, but where's that one? Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. So I'm just going to put these here really quick. Just so that you guys know what I'm talking about as I say it. There we go. All right, so Lord of the Flies and Hunger Games. So Lord of the Flies was written back in like 1954, something like that, and Hunger Games came out in like 2008-ish, I think. You guys are gonna have to check those dates. But for the most part, Lord of the Flies is about a group of boys who are they plane crashes on an island, and then they kind of descend into um what is savagery. Okay. And then Hunger Games is obviously an established form of savagery, and savagery as defined as humans who have lost humanity. Not the stereotype in which the Western colonial world uses that term on people who they deem as primitives. I have a lot to say of that. But Lord of the Flies, funny enough, I just wanted to mention this because both of these are about power. It was something that my husband said, and so I'm sharing the message. And it's that the themes are power, like it's power in so many, for every theme that's in the book, at the center of that theme is a power struggle. And Lord of the Flies is when someone's their inherent quest for power leads to systemic power. Okay, so inherent meaning based on ego. So in this particular case, my husband mentioned that a lot of the boys in here, like the ones that were questing for power, they quest for ego power. So if one's a hunter, then he's the best simply because being a hunter is the best and he's the best hunter. So it doesn't matter whether someone else is really good at, I don't know, like medicine and helping people like healthy. He devalues that because it's not hunting. If that makes sense. So someone who feels like there is power in their ego and then they use that to extract outwards a system, and this creates systematic power. Whereas the Hunger Games is the individual versus systematic power. And I thought it was interesting because both of these come from the same culture, essentially. One is the imperial culture, 1954, and another one is American colonial culture, fast forward 2008. And there's also some speculation here where Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins says that she had the idea very, that was based off of her watching news and stuff during the Iraq War. And then there's also like the book, The Battle Royale, it's published in Japan. And then the question was, because it's like similar, it's like essentially the same thing for the most part, but a little bit different. But she never mentions it. But this isn't. I say all of that to say that like this kind of this kind of conversation about power, systematic power versus individual power, and someone's inherent ego power leading to systematic power. These are all like themes that exist really heavy in Western. Like I keep removing the word Western because it erases indigenous cultures out here in the Western Hemisphere. But it really, it's you're gonna find this all the time in American and like English literature. I guess that's the best way to put it. And in culture that is derived from imperial and colonial settings. And with that, I want to really bring home this: power is where you place it. Power is where you place your attention. Right now, Jupiter, who is like a power machine, okay, is in Leo, which is the hub of power in astrology. Power is where you place your attention. So, whatever you are consuming, whatever you are doing, whatever your environment is, whoever you give your attention to, even if it's to, hey, do you have the time? Are you giving them your attention? Are you going to stop and tell them the time? Are you ignoring them completely because this person has asked you that 5 times and they keep snickering next to their friends and it feels weird? Like, what are you going to give your attention to? And that also means like let your attention lead you. If you say I'm not giving my attention to something in my environment, but you stay in the environment and you have to constantly remove, like shift your attention, you are in a place where you're giving physical attention to a thing. So be mindful of that, that sort of a thing. um because the struggle for power, and I feel like the reason why I'm highlighting Lord of the Flies and the Hunger Games is because these are revisits for us. The first time that I read the Hunger Games, I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that it was about, the individual versus the system. Yeah, but I've also lived in a world with Lord of the Flies, and it never really connected that, generationally speaking, that you were watching the sickness of whatever has caused, right? This like obsessiveness over power move. The baton has passed from Lord of the Flies to even the Hunger Games, not directly, but in a generational and cultural way. And so keep your eye on things like that, because in some way, shapes, or forms, that same storyline is floating around right now. But make sure that you are empowered, because, man, I almost oh, the song Lunar Eclipse. Eclipse, we're alive, we're alive. That song's playing in my background. So I just want let me see. Turn your face towards the sun. Yeah, this song just came to mind when you said look forward. I might watch the Yellow Jackets now, thanks. Oh yeah, the Yellow Jackets are similar. Yeah, I've heard about that. There's always the story. Make sure that if you do watch it, right, like keep that bigger, like ask yourself, where does this fit in the cultural passing down the baton of poisoned power, where people don't really know what power is? How do they define power? And that's going to lead me into this next one. This next topic really quick before we get to the turning back. We might not get to the student FAQ today. Because as much as I'd love to, I am still somewhat, like recovering. And turning back, that one's a good one. So we'll focus on that. But I wanted to talk about this one yesteryear. Oh, actually, let me put this back on. Damn. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, you know what I'll do? Bow, 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 bow. There we go. Okay, yesteryear. Lunar to the moon. Take me to the moon. There you guys go. Now you can see it too. Yesteryear. So I'm talking about this one. So this is a book I mentioned to you guys that I was reading it. This is my fun read. I don't know why it is that I do this to myself. Anytime that I have to like stop work, I like, I have many different avenues in which I work from, right? And so like generally speaking, at any point in time, I can trick myself into doing work even if I don't mean to, because I also enjoy what I do. So there are times where I have to say, no, I have to do something that's for pure entertainment only. And then so I came across this on TikTok. People were talking about Nara Smith was the subject of attention. She was on a podcast where she was yelling at people. This is about power and narratives and stuff. So it's funny how this is going to slip right on through. But actually, no, I won't. I won't leave that. That's fine. But anyways, Nora Smith was on a podcast and she was explaining how she's not a trad wife. That she works. Her husband also does all this other stuff. People just don't see that. Also, she doesn't understand how people get trad wife when she dresses in like couture. You know, that's just weird to her. And in the comments, people were like, she's trying to escape the yesteryear allegations. And I was like, what is that? What are they talking about? So I look it up. And it's his book, Yesteryear, by Carl Claire Burke. She wrote a story about essentially a trad wife influencer who wakes up one day and finds herself in the 1800s, like 1850, which is so funny because that's the time period where I read a lot from. I even have Dickens open. I don't know when that one was though. Was Bleak House 1850s? I don't fucking know. But James Barrie was born around that time. Carl Jung was born around this time. If anything, I'm just swimming around, her ancestors essentially at this time, but over in Europe, not necessarily in America. Now that being said, Harriet Beecher Stowe was writing at this time, and the Dust Bowl was going to happen that's a long time from there, some 80 years later. The Dust Bowl. But the point is that this is like, she's in the 1850s, she's in the mid 18th, the mid 1700s. Is that what that is? Anyways, mid 19? No, we go back one, right? Anyways, the 17th century, is that what it is? Mid 1800s, the 17th century. Oh, Jesus Christ. But anyways, she gets stuck there. And the story kind of takes place where we're kind of traversing through her life. It's told out of order. So as we go, we're experiencing sometimes when she's younger and she's growing up in Idaho in a very religious area. And, sometimes she's at Harvard because she got into Harvard. She wanted to kind of branch out and see the world. And then sometimes she's, at the very beginning, we get a lot of her in modern day time where she's making content or, there's some things, some tensions going on in her life. I'm only 25% through the book. I just started reading it last night. And then there's those periods where, like once she wakes up in the 1800s, we're like, whoa, what's going on here? Okay. Because she wakes up in the 1800s and it's the 1800s. And she's given schizophrenic. And if there's one thing that I can continuously remind y'all about people back then is that Carl Jung, if we remember, he was teaching everybody that in the early 1900s, schizophrenia is considered. Why would this change? Whoa, 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 whoa! To just cover up the other one? Don't be rude. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You don't know me like that. Okay, let me switch this one over so that you guys can see. There you go. Carl Jung was teaching us like in the 1900s that essentially when it came to psychiatric care, schizophrenia was a catch-all disease for anybody who was just not cooperating with life for the most part. And nobody talked to people about what was going on with them. It was just like you got a medical assessment and then you were just kind of put away. And if you couldn't behave, then you can't really fit in society. Then, it depends on how much money you have. Either worse things happen to you or you were just forgotten. Um, I fully watched that Nara Smith podcast today and have been thinking about it seriously. So, this is that moment where she wakes up and she's like, "Where am I?" and all this stuff. And it seems like the people in her life in 1800s, which look kind of like her kids, but not really her kids. Her husband looks the same, but his eyes are weird. He's old. He's old, like he's part of some. He's from the 1850s, and her kids are like a mismatch of the other kids that she has, and she was pregnant before this happened, and then when she gets there she's not pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on here. And she is very much her name's Natalie from like 2020 something. You know what I mean? Stuck here, so she's not integrating well, and she is treated the way that someone who is experiencing schizophrenia in 1850 is treated, especially a woman, and a woman who essentially can no longer operate in the way that patriarchy expects, is schizophrenic. Okay, so she's treated that way, and oftentimes the first step of making her work right is physical violence. So I'm just letting you all know. This is yesteryear. Okay. So it's about this. How did this woman get stuck in the past? Now, the one thing that I just want to note is that yesteryear has been talked about as a satire from all I can really understand. But this is something that I want to circle on because I think it's very prevalent today. That this is actually American colonial Gothic fiction, meaning our main character Natalie, she is the horror part is that she's stuck in the 1850s, but like I put this in my notes, that's pretty obvious to everyone except her, right? When you watch a trad wife influencer, it's really obvious to you that they are stuck in some other era or time period where they do not have working knowledge of the history of that time to actually ground it, so they can ground what's happening to them in the current time and navigate out of it. They don't know that they're trapped in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 1850s. They don't know that they're trapped there. We do. So that's the satire aspect, is we can mock someone like that for sure. But what's actually makes this an American colonial Gothic is the fact that when you read the book, at least for the first 25%, you see that she's built this brick by brick. She's not a victim. She chose to be stuck. She went to Harvard, where she took gender equality classes and all sorts of stuff that taught her something different, or I should say, to exposed her to something different. But when she saw the other women that she thought were, going off of all of that, like the other girls in her space, they were just wayward. She sees them as empty, like soulless pits, because they are. If I'm going to be totally honest, she's at Harvard, and this is where all the rich kids are, like, who who are being put in daycare. you know they're like the big kid daycare. It gets prestige and stuff like that, but it's working off of the legends of others, not the current compatriots. Is that the word? Why do I say that word? But not the current students and stuff like that. They're dumb. They haven't done anything special. That's not why the school is prestigious. It's prestigious because of the other people who did things, and why they did things may not have anything to do with Harvard as much as it had to do with the money that they collectively had. Anyways, you get the point. Ivy Leagues are, but you know, they have glamour magic in their own. And that's not to discredit the work that is done there by people. It's just that the prestige is something that comes from history, not from the current date. And so while she's at Harvard, she's looking at some of the students and she's like, well, Jesus, this whole free woman thing looks stupid. And she really doubles down in her religion. And as she doubles down in her religion, you as a reader get to kind of see the cognitive dissonance that she's suffering from being unable to see the trap that she's in, that she thinks other people are in. And I would say that the reason why this is a horror is because the many people in America would imagine that if they went to Harvard that and got an education there, that they experienced a worldly education, and that's not the case. She went to Harvard and she experienced white society, and she thought that was the world. And because she saw white society, what the other side of it had to offer, she said the world has nothing else but this, and she chose patriarchy, and then entrapped herself in some type of amnesic episode where apparently she doesn't know how history works, you know what I mean? Where she can't hear the stories of other women, or when other women don't offer her answers but cause more suffering, she takes that as the norm. And so I really wanted to highlight that, because I think, and highlight the book, because I think it is a very timely book right now to really help people understand, I guess, also how you build your For You page and your way of thinking and your sense of self legitimately brick by brick. Everybody's exposed to information, but how do you integrate, and do you? And do you know whether you're being exposed to the world, or are you being exposed to a worldview and being told that that's the world? That's a huge thing that I think, I mean, again, I'm only 25% of the way through. This is something that I'm noticing about the book. I don't know how much it really dives in deeper, but I'll be keeping, if I finish it, I'll keep people up to date on TikTok. So, and I was about to say YouTube. Maybe I'll do book reviews again or something. I don't know. We'll see. Literally just got off my sick bed, and I'm over here like, maybe we'll do this and this and this. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that, because man, it just fell right into my lap, and it fits into the conversation as well about power. Where do you place it? She placed power in a patriarchal religious god that she was conditioned to use to survive poor conditions. Her father left their family, and the mother had to sacrifice and do an awful lot to keep them afloat and stuff like that. And the way that she lived that life set her up to, well, I should say, she lived that life. She had the opportunity to go further out and to explore, but the way that she lived her life didn't necessarily give her the tools to fully even know what she was exploring or how to explore. And also the tools of judgment that is passed through in deep religion. That's why a lot of people, it seems like they go out and they can't escape their cults, because the cult's everywhere. And it shows you, I think this book does a really great job too of showing you how the cult circumvents, how they grab the people, keep them in the loop, emotional ties, how, when people feel like they can't fit in society, which white society is very much like no third space. Everyone has to go to their designated spaces, right? And you have to get in with a special card or something. Otherwise you're just an outcast, right? If you don't have a space, you are an outcast and you can't play. And because of that, the religions prey on people in those spaces to kind of give them a space to be and to feel like they have, like, some sense of connection. And so it's really good at, I think, detailing that out. So if you were looking for a spooky read, especially coming this fall, or you've just been following Tradwife stuff and you're like, what the hell? You're confused or something like that, I think Yesteryear is a pretty interesting deep dive into that. um I love how I keep popping up Carl Jung for like every, I'm like, he mentioned this too. um somebody thought that I must have liked him an awful lot, and it's like, no, he's just relevant. Jeez. Okay, let me see. Anybody say anything? Oh, nope. And then I mentioned Revival season 4. I'll say this again. Like, a lot of you are picking up on the energy that there's a lot of shifts. That whole Jupiter and EDMR, like Rihanna, where have you been all my life? Yeah, 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 yeah. Boom, boom, but that whole thing. That whole song progression, you know what I mean? Like the whole, like, where have you been all my life? Like, we're moving and then we're gonna get to some new thing. That is upon us. Don't ask me how that looks, what it looks like for you all individually. No fucking clue. I am, and the way that I'm experiencing it in my life, I'm having to really come to terms with a lot of attitudes that normally I used to frown upon, that I now must integrate into myself. Like, there's a lot of attitudes that generally I like to stay away from things that I like go. poo-poo that I'm now having to integrate and see in a different light. And so be open. Let that be a lesson from yesteryear. When you are given new information, please just sit with it. You do not need to categorize it or organize it based on your already known confirmed biases if you're trying to break out of something. It's like when people hear do affirmations when they're depressed, you know what I mean? And they expect it to feel like the winning ticket before they do it. And it's like, no, you got to do affirmations. Oh, well, just standing in the mirror and telling myself I look nice is stupid. All right, bitch, don't start there. Tell yourself that you're grateful for your life, that you woke up and breathed today. Oh, well, maybe I would have been better off dead. Hold your breath then and let's see how grateful you are to breathe. And then you can write that one down. You know, like sometimes people have to start at the bare fucking minimum and just be grateful that they can breathe. Be grateful that it's didn't rain on them. Be grateful that they have a roof over their head. Be grateful that they had food today. Be grateful for these things. And sometimes when you lose stuff, then you understand how grateful you have to be for the things that you feel entitled to. The stuff that you feel entitled to, start practicing gratitude towards it. That's probably why your life sucks. Because if you feel entitled to, if you cannot practice gratitude, right, then you're entitled. And if you were entitled and everything sucks, it's because you're entitled. Life isn't great for people who are entitled. Life is always a miserable inconvenience for them. That's why they're always throwing tantrums. So if you feel like everything is a miserable inconvenience for you, practice less entitlement by practicing gratitude for everything that you have that just seems like it should always be there. Yeah, when you do that, it starts to make you feel a little uncomfortable. Like you're recognizing how easy stuff can go away. And then that makes you feel like you need to clutch onto it tighter because you don't want it to go away. And then you don't want to practice gratitude because you see that circle, it's based in on fear. And so it loops on fear. I won't do this because if I do this, then I have to acknowledge that this is like I am here by chance. And I would rather not acknowledge that. And I would rather hold on to like what I have, which means I cannot grow or expand. So that's kind of like the issue that trapped the trad wife in yesteryear, the inability to expand due to fear. So whenever you find yourself in a space where you are getting new information, don't try to organize it and make it make sense to the old you. Just let it sit there so that you can discover it, and this turns you into a new version of you. Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to really quickly. Oh my God, no, it's everywhere. Get her out of here. Get her out of here. I'm tired of her. I'm just kidding. Okay, there we go. Why does this change for both of them? That is beyond me, but you know, here we are. Okay, Carl Young, we want him to come back. And who are you? Okay, I'm gonna bring Some up here. There we go. And then let me see if I have that here. Oh my God, guys, I'm just, what the fuck is this? Okay, it's empty. I'm gonna, I already did the Tao Chi Ching. Let me see, Young. I'm grabbing up these, not grabbing up. Who says that? I'm grabbing up these. It sounds crazy. Oh, let me close the obsidian. Of course he's there. Okay, Semi. Okay, so I am tossing these here so you guys can kind of fuck, stop it. There we go. Hopefully. Oh, there we go. So we can who changed that? Now I don't know what that one was. I can't. Okay. Who is this? Okay, let's just change you to Young. Is that going to work out for us? I don't know why, but one of them is connected to the Patreon and the Tik. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Okay, so it's this one. Y'all just give me a second. Okay. Maybe if I change this, everything will be fine and nothing will happen. There we go. Okay. We'll do Young like that. Okay. I am going to hit the record button really quick. And I'm going to jump into, and we're going to finish this up. Yay! We got about 20 minutes. I'm going to jump into a lecture on turning back. That's kind of, this is the title, full screen. Yeah, don't be weird, guys. Not you guys. I'm talking to Loom. Um, current tab. Maybe I'll just do that. Yes, I think so. I think this is just how we're going to do it. All right. Hello, everybody. So this is a lecture on a concept from the Tao Te Ching, which is by Lao Tzu. It's actually over like 2 millennia old. It's very, very, very old book of wisdoms. And this one, I love the one that's been translated by Ursula K. Le Guin. She's a UK author. She's that wrote in a lot of fantasy, like Tales of Earthsea. She wrote in science fiction, The Dispossessed. She's also written books about writing and stuff like that. But she was very much in her early years interested in Eastern wisdoms, and I think it was because of the Tao Te Ching. So she ended up translating it at some point in time, and I think it's a beautiful translation. But chapter 28, which is the thing I probably should have had up here. Chapter 28 is a poem. Okay, I'm going to talk about these 3 books because I've been reading them, and there's some really interesting concept that I want to bring to the attention. Just you guys can play around with it in your own mind and see what comes up for you. But I'd like to bring it forth. But it came from reading the 3 of these all at the same time. And so that would be Of Water and the Spirit by Malidoma Patrice Somé. Memories, Dreams, and Reflections it's an autobiography of Carl Jung. And then obviously the Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching, I think. Tao Te Ching. I think that's how it is. Translation by Ursula K. Le Guin. So I'm going to start with the translation. Chapter 28 is called Turning Back. And it's an interesting poem about the interior versus the exterior. And, oh man, I wish I had it on me. I'm pretty sure. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I can read it really quick because I have a picture of it here. Do I not have a picture of it here? Lies. I know that I do. You're a liar. You all are. Okay, let me just go to my Kindle and I can pull it up really quick. Oh man. This is me reading like 5 books at once. All right, Turning Back. I'm going to read it out loud, I think, because that's going to give it the best No, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. I'll just read it. Okay. Knowing man and staying woman, be the riverbed of the world. Being the world's riverbed of eternal unfailing power is to go back again to be newborn. Knowing light and staying dark, to be a pattern to the world. Being the world's pattern of eternal unerring power is to go back again to boundlessness. Knowing glory and staying modest, be the valley of the world. Being the world's valley of eternal inexhaustible power is to go back again to the natural. Natural wood is cut up and made into useful things. Souls are used to make into leaders. Just so a great carving is done without cutting. All right, so I'm going to translate that a bit because to me it's not as intuitive, especially since you can't see it. But this is going back and forth between interior and exterior. So knowing man and staying woman. It's not about gender. This is knowing masculine and staying feminine. So do you know your masculine energy? Do you know when to act? And can you rest? To know and to stay means to have both at the same time, to understand that you are always in a dance between both. Just because you are in the masculine energy doesn't mean that that is all you are, is a tool that does. And just because you are resting doesn't mean that you do not know work. All right. But this says when doing this, you become the riverbed of the world. So there's a Alan oh, I can never remember his actual name. Alan Watts, I think. I've heard a sound bite from him and a song that I have, and it comes on every time I'm walking in nature. It's so funny. But there's a point where he talks about how you have these senses and you must become present. And you must learn how to become present with the world, because the powerful life force that is, once it comes through your vessel, it is such a power that it will blow you away if you do not have the integrity to hold yourself while it flows through you. So that is the eternal unfailing power of the world. It is when you become the riverbed, so the river that holds this water flow, you become the vessel that can hold the energy that goes through you, because you know how to rest, you know where rest goes, and you also know where action goes. So knowing light and staying dark, this is the same concept come up again, and about going back to boundlessness. So knowing glory and staying modest, this is the same concept that comes up again. Be the valley of the world, the thing that is in the belly, right? The valley goes down. It is not the peak where you get the nice view. It is down in the details. um this is how you can get inexhaustible power. A lot of times people are trying to figure out how to get energy. I'm going to get into that in a second, but this is how you maintain inexhaustible power, and then also the ability to rest. I mentioned this earlier, for those of you who are just here for the lecture, and weren't here for the live. That's, so you're just listening to the pre-recording or the recording. I mentioned how I can muster up my energy right now for work, and then, as soon as I'm done, I'm like, I fall out because I'm still in resting mode. I just got off, kind of recovering from getting sick earlier. So it's a switch. I'm going to talk about it in a moment. So natural wood is cut up and made into useful things. Think about wood. It is a tool. Well, when you cut it up, you're making it into useful things. It is like a tool, right? But a soul is used to make leaders. So a wood is used to make things. A soul is used to make leaders, or a consciousness that moves forward. Just so a great carving is done without cutting. When the soul within, when you intake wisdom, you carve yourself into a great leader or into consciousness without having to cut yourself, without having to harm yourself, so to speak. So this turning back, the reason why this one struck to me, so this is from 2000 years ago. Now, where Carl Jung comes up here, in the conversation piece, is that in his autobiography, when he talks about his early childhood years, he talks about his consciousness is split into two. He's got number two and number one. Number one is an outdoor personality, meaning that if he's talking to his parents, if he's going to school, if he's talking to the priest that came over for dinner, then personality number one is talking to these people. This is the social conditioning that you get as you are a person growing up in society. Okay, you get a name. You your interests are slightly controlled via social pressures, right? Um, the external world has comment on your personality number one, what they think about you. Some people might find you endearing and some people might find you unsettling, but they're all talking about personality number one. Personality number two is one that is so deep within, it's your interior. No one else can experience this. No one else. No matter how much you try to explain who you are deeply inside, no one can experience that. That is you. They can only experience aspects of you. You can see number two completely because you're the only one who's attached to you 24/7. So you see how all of the different aspects of you make up that number two. So this is your soul. Number one is very selective about what type of aspects can come out. So, for instance, if you are sitting in a Catholic church, are you going to just get up and start talking really loudly and, talking about how Satan could be cool and maybe we should talk about some of these things while people are in the middle of Mass? You might do that on a Reddit board. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe you like to rage bait people in comment sections, but are you going to rage bait people in a Catholic church during one of their mass sessions? Probably not if you like practice social integrity, right? Like, were you invited into this space to do that, or are you being odd? The audio was kind of weird just before you talked about the wood thingy. Ooh, is it better now? Yeah. Oh, okay, good. So yeah, so the point here though is that your personality, number one, you're very selective about what you do and where based on social conditioning. Number two, heard that. Number two is sitting with you in the cathedral when you have the impulse to say something crazy and rage bait somebody for no particular reason. You didn't say it. The people around you did not interact with you saying that. You maybe internally giggled to yourself because you thought it would make a funny meme or something, and then you moved on with life. Number two, experience. That was number, you were experiencing that, right? Number one doesn't express that, but what's unexpressed and also what is expressed exist in number two. And number two is an amount, it's a personality of its own that you were constantly discovering because it is consciousness itself. It's the soul itself. And so you were always discovering that part of you, because when you were standing in number one, who are you looking at? Number two. When you were in number two, who do you think you were analyzing? Number one. So you can always tell which kind of where you're centered. Are you in your soul self just being? Because your soul self isn't really all that interested in the social aspects of number one and all that kind of stuff. It's not interested in frivolities and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of interested in what it's doing. It's more primal in nature because it's the soul. It's connected to the everything all at once. It's ancient. Carl Jung mentioned his as like a wise old man that, it used to freak him out at first, but it was like this secret inside of him. And also, it was attached to an era, not just the current time. So, your personality, number one, is very much attached to like 2026 and who are you right now? Where your personality, number two, is attached to like 100-year span. It's the span of your life, really. All of you, all at once. So, when we talk about things like that, and we talk about turning back, which one? Okay, I'll put it this way. Oh, wait, why did I bring up Same? Oh, I forget where he fits into this. There's something I wanted to mention that he had said in there in his book that is really helpful. I'm sure it'll come up when it does. But this is an activity that I've taken to doing for fun, but I want to invite other people as well. Is this considering chapter 28 says no man and no knowing man and staying woman. Which one do you think is personality number one and number two, and the states between those things? Number two exists in your deep interior. I'll explain it like this. It is an unending power source. It is your soul. But to reach your interior, your unending power source to do things, you must stay woman in this context, which is to stay in a resting mode. You must rest personality number one in order to know personality number two. Now, that's why I said don't get confused. It depends on what version you read of the Tao Te Ching. This is nothing to do with gender. The translation into English doesn't really have language for the energy that is, man, the interior can be described in many ways. It can be described as a masculine of will and force, right? It can also be described as a quiet intuition. The interior has many different names and many different faces and functions. Now, the function that gives you unerring power, the kind where you can the kind where you have super strengths, your thoughts are moving really fast, you're really confident, you're in flow state, essentially. If you want to get into flow state, you have to rest your way into it. You have to turn inward, which means you have to lay down personality number one. So sometimes knowing man is to know the interior. You know how men, like in the gendered world, there's a sense of entitlement that one can just go out and conquer, right? That is unerring power. That's power that just goes and goes. And woman is domestic and social life. It is the way in which we arrange and divvy up resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you must quiet the one that is in charge of the social in order to move into the one who makes mountains move, who goes out and penetrates outward with power. So flow state. is achieved that way. Let me see. What was it else? There's something else that I wanted to mention with it. That's right. Some. So Molly Doma Patrice Some. So man, this book has been really good of water and spirit because for everybody who doesn't know, this is about a man who in about 1958 was when he was born. He was born in West Africa in Burkina Faso. And he was kidnapped by Jesuits when he was about 4 and taken to school. Okay, so that just if you're American, you've heard about the indigenous schools for children where they would just starve kids and beat them into Catholic belief or whatever beliefs they were trying to indoctrinate them into. This is a way of usurping a child's spirit and connection to their ancestors and forcing instead the child to connect to the ancestors of European colonials. And because those aren't those children's ancestors, then they have to talk to the European colonial priest to understand and know what it is that their ancestors that aren't really theirs are telling them to do so that they can be a tool for colonial European people. So this is enslavement, right? So kidnapping people and children and forcing them to learn things, that's enslavement. And it's enslavement on the spiritual level. So the book really goes into the depths of how that's done. And when Molly Doma goes back to his village at like 20, he hasn't undergone a ritual that's supposed to help him move from childhood into manhood. He doesn't even know what that is. And the West doesn't know what that is either. And right now, during this time period, which is like the 70s now, they don't even know that the Western colonials don't know what that is. Like in a lot of these indigenous spaces where they're still interacting with colonials, they think that the colonials are practicing a medicine because they have a spirituality and stuff like that, and their medicine is just powerful because they don't understand it. They don't know that the medicine is incomplete. That's why they don't understand it, because it's incomplete. And so by the time Malidoma is about 20, they're starting to kind of realize like there's a restless like the spirit in the West or in these like imperial and colonial spaces, because these are French, they were colonized by the French, that they have a restless spirit, meaning that because this culture doesn't know how to grieve, it doesn't know how to turn from number one to number two, that it's stopping the process of being able to connect spiritually to oneself and to the greater community around them. There is a total disconnect. And what's interesting is Molly Doma is taking us through this from his perspective of having been kidnapped and um having to build and to go through initiation as a 21-year-old rather than a 13-year-old, right? Which is his first time experiencing spirit, so his first time going into meditation and like experiencing through his imagination the collective ancestral plane, which is very much real. All of these planes in the imagination, all of that stuff is real. It's just that a lot of in the West there is no it's all broken, the bridge is broken, so to speak. People talk about the Rainbow Bridge. I think Asgard has a Rainbow Bridge. That bridge is broken in the West. And so because it's broken, everyone goes, "Oh, there's no bridge. There is no plane. What are you talking about?" Simply because they cannot get there. Not because it doesn't exist. Um but while he's talking about that, he's writing this. His book was published like in 1990, but he's, experiencing this. Maybe like this was like I said, around the 70s, 60s that he's going through the initiation. No, 70s, maybe close to the 80s, probably, because he's 21. He was born in like 54, 58. I can't remember. But nonetheless, what was I saying? Ah, so while he's talking about this in the 70s, Carl Jung is telling us that about all of this around the same time period, 1960, in his autobiography. But he's looking back on his childhood in the early he was born like 1860 or 75 or something like that. He's looking back at that late 1800s, early 1900s period, and he was realizing how unsafe it was for him to express anything about his awareness of number two. So I want to really hone in on that specifically to kind of give everyone a vantage point of where the West is by like early 1900s. There you've got one guy who's really looking at this soberly because he's interested in the truth. He's not interested in the social implications of it. His number 2 doesn't really fit in well socially speaking. Also, he's in Zurich, and there's something about Zurich is riddled with these ideas. But it's like they're all trying to get free. But anyways, but he's essentially giving us a window in at this moment and showing us that in the Western world, at least where Switzerland and the Deutsch culture that pervades in that area exist, and then farther out, the empire, right? The British Empire, the French Empire. You've got the Spanish one is probably falling apart by then, I think. The Italian one, right? You've got all these little empires in Europe. But during this time period, he is the only person who is capable of expressing himself. Now, he's very much aware that in his male patriotic or patriarchal space that he exists in naturally as a man in Switzerland, that number 2, no one can know that that exists. He cannot talk to others about it. It would immediately make things go bad. He's aware of that, not only as a child, because he kind of gets like, he's experiencing abuse in different ways, especially from like teachers and academically, because he seems to know things that other people don't, they cannot fathom how he knows. And it's simply because when he takes information, he interacts with it rather than saying, do I regurgitate and memorize or get rid of because it's not popular? This is how many people are reading during that time period. This is how many people are interacting with like academic work. It's, is this scholar popular and do other people approve in my circle? Yes. Okay, then I will believe it. If not, then I will have to get rid of it. It's stupid. It's dumb. They don't know what it is. They just know whether they agree or they don't agree. They're not interacting with it cognitively on their own. And this leads to an entire populace who is well educated and dumb. Well educated, but also at the same time highly illiterate. And what I mean is like emotionally, the emotional intelligence is about as low as it gets, because to read something and integrate requires you to build emotional intelligence. That's how emotional intelligence is built, by acknowledging information, processing, synthesizing, and applying it appropriately. That's empathy. That's emotional intelligence. Not practicing that, and this is in heavily male-based spaces in Europe, means that the emotional intelligence was null. And yet the gusto for conquest, the gusto to search, the gusto to seek, the gusto to know is at an all-time high. Because other people around them aren't stopping them. Because they have emotional intelligence. Why would you? The emotional intelligence says we should just get along since we're here. It would be crazy to not do that, to do other things that would cause harm, because then everything would be bad. Right? So understand as you navigate the world, whether or not you were navigating around people who are aware of their own consciousness. Are you aware of your consciousness in moments, right? Do you ignore your consciousness when you are feeling overwhelmed with personality number 1 woes? I hate calling it personality number 1. I'm using the Jung framework because, it is really easy to point to and discuss. But like, when you are really with the world, Wordsworth used to say being with the world, right? When you're really with society and stuff and you're overwhelmed by the scripts in society, this is giving yesteryear. You're overwhelmed because your world is scary. Are you recognizing your consciousness, or are you running into scripts that trap you into worldviews and into timelines? Like, ideas are like that. If an idea is born out of the 1850s and you are abiding by that idea, you are partially in the 1850s. Now, you could be in the 1850s in a great place, or you could be in the 1850s in a terrible place. The Tradwife book, Yesteryear, would suggest that, being in the 1850s, Tradwife era, is not chic, right? Like, this is none of the women were screaming, "This is great." Most of them were like not screaming because then they'd be labeled schizophrenic and put into a sanitarium. So, oh man, it's really hitting me the fact that I was reading that book and then talking about this. Oh, Yesteryear. For anybody who is listening to the recording, I'm talking about a book, Yesteryear, by it's an American colonial gothic horror. At least that's how I categorize it. It's considered satire. By Claire, what's her name? Claire Burke. Core Claire Burke? I don't know. Let me see. I'll just change this really quick. We talked about the young. There you go. Just for anybody listening to the recording at home. But yeah, it's called Yesteryear, and by Caro Claire Burke, and it's about a woman who is a trad wife, and she gets trapped in the 1850s. She's a trad wife influencer in our current times, and she's the only person that doesn't know that she's trapped in the 1850s. That's supposed to be the satire, but the horror is the fact that this is a woman who was raised in a predominantly very religious area in Idaho. There's lots of Mormons out here and lots of like evangelicals to some degree in the West and stuff like that, especially straight from Utah and from colonial settler days and stuff like that. And so she has she owns a farm, and her husband is the son of a senator, and they have tons of money. And so she renovates the farm, but she wants it to be like a time machine. She wants this farm to really feel like the 1800s. And then one day she wakes up and she is in the 1800s. And, she is like horrified because it is, we haven't even gotten to the point that like time has shifted and she's now out of time. But just think about what that means for a woman who has children to all of a sudden wake up and those aren't her children. Like, they're not the same, but they're looking to her for motherly affection and appeal. But she doesn't belong here. Her husband is not the same. Even her husband in the current times, she kind of controls a lot of his behaviors and stuff like that, because she has a lot to say about his masculinity or lack thereof. And the one that she wakes up to in the 1800s, she's not allowed to have thoughts. She's not allowed to have an interior. So that's the jarring part, is to go not just being tossed out of time, but being tossed out of self. There is no self for her. She is a tool only. And yeah, that has its horror. That's a horror. So like, it's such an interesting book, but it really does speak to this whole like what happens when you cannot turn back to yourself. And when we talk about the turning back, how do you go into, like, for her it's going into her flow state, which is such a masculine energy that obviously in the contemporary times leads her to being an influencer, but in her current time, or I should say, but in 1850, that would lead her to probably, she wouldn't be in a penitentiary because this is an American colonial setting. So she would, she's in Idaho in 1850s screaming, "Where am I? Where am I?" They're just going to either, like, do away with her in a sanatorium, maybe, or like that's maybe if there's one in the area, or put her in a woman's home, maybe if there's one in the area, or she just ends up like, there's a very unfortunate soundbite that's going around on TikTok, but it's true. Somebody said, "Well, what happens to trad wives once they hit 47?" And someone said they put him in a golf course, because our President Trump, number 47, did that to his first wife. I think he pushed her down the stairs, and I don't know how she died, but they buried her on the golf course. That was the that was the way of saying, like, it is a terminable, like, it is not a lifestyle to chase. And a lot of the women don't know that as they're on it, because they are trapped in a worldview, right? So and that worldview, like I said, Young kind of like brings a lot of light into it, and so does Molly Dumas Somé Patrice from The Other Side. Yeah. So, anyways, some practical tools and tips on how to turn back to yourself. Well, those are all the things of consciousness that we talk about all the time. Did you notice that you slip from consciousness? One of the moment that you recognize that you are, um, you exist as a multifaceted person. There is one of you that holds all of you, and then there are the individual yous that's express outward, right? Some days when you go to work, I'm sure when you go to work, you have a totally different personality than when you are, I don't know, like in a really romantic situation behind closed doors in your own bedroom. I would expect that you have totally different personalities in that moment. I would hope that you do, right? Because one setting is super intimate and the other one requires you to be used as a tool consensually, like you are working as a role in a functional space. You are not intimate in that space at work. You are a role, and when your role is complete, you leave, right? And if that's how you act in an intimate space in your bedroom behind closed doors, right, that's kind of a that's needs investigation. So the investigation is, how do I put down number one, or, interact with this from my number two place, from my interior? Who am I and what do I want from this? Now that doesn't mean that, like, when I say that you have different personalities, all of your personalities should be conducive to you, meaning you are not putting on a performance for others. You are expressing your inner self that can never be exposed outwardly. You are expressing it contextually in a moment, and that in itself develops a personality. That's your social personality, and you have many of them. And then all of them are truncated like a Russian doll inside you. And that you is something that other people cannot see. I cannot see all of the aspects of a person. I read energy. I can just see what aspect they are right now. You know what I mean? Like what's coming out. And there can be multiple aspects sometimes coming out at once. Okay. I think that one's it that I wanted to say on turning back. This one will be uploaded separately to the live, of course. And yeah. You guys can watch that. It'll probably be behind the paywall. This one will be for members. I'm going to start doing like mini lectures on this stuff like that I kind of come up with, like I said earlier. And that'll be these. You'll be able to find them in the season 4 collection. That one's called Revival. Because I think we're in a lot of revival energy right now. And I do urge everyone to kind of ask yourself, how can you revive something, or what do you need to be revived, or how would you like to be revived in any moment that you're in? Not like in general. Don't think big picture, think small picture. Like right now, I think I need some water and a little nap because I'm getting tired. Right? That's like, like I'm reviving myself. And that question for however long this season is, I think is what's going to help us all thrive, along with many other things. All right, I'm going to look at some of the questions now. Let me see. Yeah, in Yoruba mythology, the god or argued goddess Olodumare. Olodumare is defined as owner of the source of creation that never becomes empty. It's the flow, right? And it's not quite. That's why I always have to say it's so hard in English to throw away the concept of man woman, because, like, that's all English has, just this gendered stuff. It's a patriarchal language, um because, like, the energy itself, it is both. It has all of the things. It's more so about how the energy moves, right? Whether it is a force that is moving or the bed that holds the force. There are two places to be, and do you know which one you are in? Can personality number one be the shadow king? Personality number one can be 1,000 things. Personality number one, I want you to just understand this legitimately. When you open your mouth, when you move your face, when you move your body, that is number one. Anything that you express outwardly is number one. Anything that you don't express outwardly is an amalgamation between either ruminations of number one or number two. Number two is an organic thing that comes at you. So if you are, let's say you are at a party, and you're meeting someone for the third time, and this time they come out in a bathing suit and they're very attractive. and you keep looking at them and you're trying so hard not to because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so attracted to this person and now I'm seeing them in a different way. Anytime you've seen somebody that you're romantically into in a different way before you're romantically together, it still happens to me too sometimes. Like I'm always like, I hope he's not looking, I hope he doesn't see me looking at him. Do that with my husband where like, sometimes he looks really nice and of course I'll be like, oh, you look great. But then, like, because he looks great, sometimes I'm looking and then I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want him thinking I'm all obsessed. Let me look away." And then I look back again and I'm like, especially when he wears his glasses. I love when he wears his glasses. Anyways, um, my point is like if you like this is a compulsive thing that you feel all of a sudden before the thoughts come, before you start rationalizing it, when you're just like, whoa, that's not that like you are blank and captivated. That would be like a number 2. Number 1 formulates a meaning behind all that and says, "Wow, he looks great." And, I love the way that this that number 1 is giving reason and meaning to the whoa. Okay, so number 2 is not necessarily a positive or negative or anything. Kind of, it's just a force. It can start to have a personality the more that you are interacting, but you as number 1 are giving a personality to number 2 as you analyze it. So you can if you watch a for me, if I watch a drama and I see like an aspect of my I see an aspect of me in it and I'm just like I'm so drawn to this thing. Like especially I will say this, generally speaking, you are drawn. Oh, I hate to say this, but oftentimes people are romantically drawn to their number 2s. So you will look for your number 2 out in the world. You will look for it on a person. So if you notice that somebody reads a lot or watches a lot of romance, and they watch and they like a certain, if you like a certain type of trope of character, or like romantic partner or something like that, it's probably your number 2 self that because you were always going to be drawn towards your own interior. You were always drawn towards yourself. That's why it's so important to treat yourself with love and respect and care, because you are drawn to yourself, whether you're doing that sitting alone in your room thinking, and you start thinking of an interesting story or an interesting feeling, or whether you're in a crowded room and you see someone and they remind you of that pull. That's you being attracted technically to your like inner self. Now, is that person your inner self? No, they have an aspect that reflects well your inner self back to you. And there can be the more you get to know a person, the more you like integrate into another person, because falling in love is really just like integrating into each other. The more that happens, the more you discover new aspects. It's like going on a vacation together. You explore new things together, and so therefore you are, if you're compatible, right? There's going to be many aspects of you that are mirrored back in the other person, but you still are technically just experiencing yourself, or the pull that you have between yourself and consciousness. You are being pulled to be alive, pulled to the present moment, pulled to experience this life. You were pulled by the soul to connect to life, and your soul will do it regardless of whether it's with a rock or person, a squirrel, a tree, a movie, a song. You're pulled to be present for many different reasons. And so that's why people get into the twin flame thing or soulmates and stuff, and they're really just looking outside for the thing that is inside, because it can be kind of intense to like be deeply in love with an idea that you feel is so real, that you are pulled towards, that you feel almost hallucinative about. You have a dream and this person is faceless and you wake up and they're not there. That not there can sometimes cause someone to feel lonely, and then they search outwardly for that aspect, when really the aspect is there. You just woke up in and now you're embodying a different aspect of yourself, so you're not with the other aspect, and so there is an absence, and that's okay. It's like I liken it all the time to, I'm not around my romantic partner 24/7. And while I'm definitely in my own body 24/7, I'm not the same person 24/7. I'm not the same self 24/7. So I cannot feasibly experience myself the same way all the time without change. And the absence of aspects of myself so that other things can be put to other aspects can be pulled to the forefront creates sometimes a grief, right? Because you're moving away, and in that grief you can mistake something being missing, and then you're looking now outside for this missing thing because you want to find it, because if it's not in here, it's out there. But that's not how that works. So is number one the certain facet that is currently expressing from the whole of number two? Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And number one, remember, I like to think about it this way. um Let me draw this picture. Boom, dum, dum. Okay. And it's hiding in your eyes, and it's swinging on your soul. It's rolling in blood that I can't see what kind of man that you are. If you're a man at all. Okay, there we go. I drew this picture. Okay. Okay, so this is Fred, number one and number two. Okay. Oh no, you guys probably can't see well. Okay, so we have here on this picture, okay, we've got number two. This person's just sitting in meditation by themselves. They're by themselves. Okay, they're in meditation. That's it. So a number two here is when you were in there somewhere. I can't, there's nothing is being expressed outward. I can't even see what the thought bubbles says, right? There's nothing in there. Now you start socializing with Fred, number one. Fred cannot talk to number two. Because first of all, you're meditating. You can't talk to someone while you're meditating. You can't talk to someone while you're in your deep interior. You can only talk to them outwardly, right? So number one speaks outward. Number one goes out into the world to collect information. Okay, so now I'm gonna arrow this back, and then we're gonna take this conversation. Okay, so number one talks with Fred here, back and forth, right? Oh, I forgot my glasses. That's why my eyes are feeling so tired. Here we go. They're exchanging information. So you were doing like retcon out there in the world, and you're going to take that retcon out and give it to number two. And that's how number two learns about the world. But that's why you also have to be honest, right? If you're having a conversation with Fred and Fred smells and he's kind of weird and he's kind of sad and he makes you feel depressed, and then you go, oh, I got to be a good person. I can't think these things about Fred. I have to just, suck it up and be a good person because I don't want to be an asshole, the kind of person that judges people because they smell. Okay, so now your number two says you're a judgmental asshole who judges people for smelling. And Fred apparently is the saint of all saints, and you are having a hard time accepting that. So you need more experiences accepting, like, not like lack of judgment or something, right? Like, we got to get you experiences that help you overcome this. And that's really not what's going on. You're incompatible with Fred to the point where even his smell and his disposition don't go well with you. But for whatever reason, you may be lying to yourself because you feel bad, you feel pity. Maybe you think Fred is socially ranked lower than you. And so you don't want to come off as rude or mean and make him feel bad. Meanwhile, Fred thinks you're a dumb bitch. And he's just wasting time talking to you until he's done, until his friend comes. You have no idea that Fred feels that way about you or thinks that way about you or is treating you like an NPC player, and you're over here in your head trying to be a good person and trying to understand. You get what I'm saying? Instead of just being honest. When you're honest, your number two goes, "Oh, you don't really like Fred. What about Ben and Jerry?" I don't know. Ben and Jerry are great. They're great people. Ben always brings ice cream, and Jerry always brings sprinkles and toppings. I don't know. You guys can tell. I have not been able to have ice cream since I've been recovering. I'm doing a gut reset. Now I want Ben and Jerry's. This is sad. Anyways, Ben and Jerry, they come over. They're a great time. and you get to experience that great time because you were open. If you had stayed in the mindset that you needed more lessons to help you become a more or less judgmental person, you're not really feeling hanging around Ben and Jerry when they come around. Your soul, you're like, your mind is now set. Your soul may want you to experience whatever, but your mind, number one, is in control now, set on like being better and doing like it instead of collecting information, it's trying to edit itself while it collects information. Oh, I collected information about smelly Fred and this and that. But now, before I send this over to number two and go inward with myself, I need to edit myself to appear like a better person, to feel like a better person, so that if I feel that way, then I know that I look that way. Right. And I don't want Fred to think that I think lowly of him, because I don't. It's just that he's smelly and depressive, and this is why everybody hates him. But I don't. I'm a good person, and I think, you see how like it's a loop that keeps you from actually going back into yourself so that you can reflect and then make a new decision about what you'd like to do. And the new decision might be to hang out with Ben and Jerry. So it's not that like number two isn't some creepy shadow. Now, underdeveloped, and you see, if you don't take information back, if you don't take any information back to number two, what do you meditate on? What's going on in there? Nothing. Instead, what's going on the outside with number one is editing and analyzing a persona, a Pinterest board of a new outfit that you can wear that'll really send the right signal. Number one's just stuck with all the information, not integrating any of it. This is where, like, generally speaking, I say emotional intelligence falls apart, right? Because you're not integrating, processing, synthesizing, and applying information appropriately. It's like that number one goes out into the world and gathers information and refuses to reflect, to go inward and sit with oneself and return to your own energy. That's number two. When we refuse to do that, it just becomes a box. Here we go. It just becomes like a box of information that's in there, and it's not helping you, it's not doing anything. And so your like number two, the meditative self, becomes like this is crazy. Your number two becomes like the I don't know how to explain this. It's like nothing's going on up here. You know what I mean? We went from possibly being like meditative and taking in information to no thoughts going on in here. It's just kind of like a crazy animal. And then you have this whole life in here that's supposed to be like a trophy, money, a home. Like, you've got all this stuff in your Pinterest board that you're collecting that you want, and you know that it's got to be perfect and this, that, and the other. And then eventually, something that I'm pretty sure always happens is the thinning of the veil. When the awakening happens, your number two gets let out of the cage. Do you want a number two that's spent time meditating and understanding reality or the world as you see it? Or do you want like this neglected, like, I don't know, raggedy child? Essentially is what the soul kind of becomes. It becomes like this like missing links. It just becomes this like feral, restless thing inside of you that's hungry. It's hungry. It wants life. And then eventually, when you hit that awakening, when you hit something that where you're and the awakening is like when you're first a person, you have, let's say, like a nice little auric field that's really healthy around you. It's like a nice little auric field. And if you are abused and stuff, your field becomes like aggressively kind of like eaten at, you know what I mean? And if you don't know how to like bring it back, if you don't know how to heal yourself, your field becomes eaten at. And eventually, when that field gets so thin, you become emotionally fragile. That means when emotions come at you, and emotions are strong, remember, what do you think the force of the universe feels like? It feels like emotions coming at you. You understand it based off of feelings. The force comes at you and you give it meaning. You say, what do I think and what do I feel? Well, first is, what do I feel? I feel I feel scared. I feel scared. I don't want this promotion. I don't want this recognition. I just want to just like do the job and just let it be a thing. That's an emotionally reactive response because this is what's going on, right? So when someone gets older and older and older, especially when they're in a society that doesn't participate in wellness and whole in like in spiritual wholeness, everyone becomes emotionally fragile. And when they're emotionally fragile, the veil between number one and number two is real fucking thin. Yeah, take a few drinks or something like that. Number two's popping all the way the fuck out, and it's a feral child popping out of a box. It's like thing one and thing two. Yeah. Except for there's no cat in the hat to wrangle them in. They're just it's crazy. And then people go, I don't know. I got to control myself. I have to do this. I have to stop this from happening. I have to stop it from happening. I have to stop. They try to push it down. But number two is the unerring force of life. Number one is supposed to be the riverbed that holds it. How you express yourself and how you move through the world is the riverbed that holds your soul's energy that's pouring out. So you can see how people trying to stop that from happening to preserve their ego. That's like having a really nice riverbed and people put a really nice town inside. And we're like, you do realize that water is coming down this bitch, right? Like a bunch of water is going, a flash flood's coming. And they're like, no, 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 we'll just hold it back. We have a dam. We have a dam. We put up a dam. See, we're smart. And then we just build all these houses. Look at all this space that we have now. And some of us are sitting here like, I don't think that's safe. And they're like, science. Science, you primitive fuck, you know? And it's like, okay, okay. And then the levee breaks. The dam breaks, and then now the whole town is underwater. And everybody's trying to figure out what happened and why, and they've lost everything, and and there is no amount of help that can calm this survival mode. It is a catastrophe. It is the entire tower has fallen, right? um yeah, that's what's going on in America right now. Lots of fragility. That's why, and it's not for and fragility, and I'm gonna end it on this. Fragility is an issue that comes about not from it is not, you cannot look at someone and know whether they are fragile or not. It is not a race based thing. That is a Western concept. That race, you can look at someone's race and know what they think and feel and know their interior. You cannot look at someone's race and know their interior. Their interior is all based on personal cultivation. So it's all based on culture. And you also can't know someone's culture and know how they practice it just by like listening to them or hearing them say that that's their culture or looking at them or seeing their cultural garb, them wearing it. No, this is only something that can be understood through cross cultural communication with that person. That's why sometimes it's hard in life. You have to get to know people to know whether or not they're made of stuff or whether they're made of fluff. And that can be rough, especially if you're in a space that's heavily American, like colonial, where everybody seems to be made of fluff because, it's the trend. All the music, man, when they like really took the black culture out of pop and hip hop and all that kind of stuff, and it was just capital commercial stuff. This is like the age of Drake and all of that. Unfortunately, Rihanna, Beyonce fits in there too. I know people hate it, but it's the truth. It's the truth. You can be a great artist and still be a capitalist and still like, fit into that box. But like unfortunately for a lot of people that's fluff, right? Because it's art for to be sold, not necessarily art that was made and shared and so on. We're actually closer to what that looks like with like TikTok and social media, where there's tons of everyday people making art and just sharing regardless of what that looks like, rather than the select few making and sharing and that being deemed art. That tells you that you're in capitalism when only some people can do something. You know that you are in a cultured worldly space where everybody does this thing, and it's not special. It's just what you find special. It's like, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nobody likes it though. Well, no, tons of people love it, and then there's people who don't because they're not being told what to like. They're not being told what their hierarchy is, and they're not being told how they fit in. They're not being told how they perceived. They're not being told how to be perceived better. There's no control with it. It's just the unexhaustible, the inexhaustible force that moves us all. All right. I think that's it. I'm going to hit pause on the recording. Oh, I keep doing that and popping out of the picture. My bad. All right, everybody. That recording is going to be. I hit the wrong one. Oh, no. I didn't mean to do that. Uh-oh. I totally didn't mean to do that. Let me see if I can. No, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I exited out of the Patreon live instead of just turning off the the recording. My bad. Let me see. Oh my god. Am I still here? Yeah. I'm still on TikTok though. And view. Funny enough, that's about to die. Okay, anybody have any questions over on TikTok? I'm so sorry if anybody. My bad. All these recordings will be back up, by the way. The live will be up, and the little mini lecture will be up too. What do you mean by your number 2 self, if I may ask? Okay, so I'll go back over that really quick. So Carl Jung, this is a framework from him. I know, I'm so sorry, Destiny. I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong button. I was over here like, but the number 2 is a Carl Jung framework. Let me go ahead and move Carl Jung to the front here. Oh shit, let me see. Let me see. Can I make him bigger? I'll just make him bigger. Yeah, so Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. This is his book that I've been reading. It's an autobiography. And I was just discussing, it's a framework that he's kind of developed out. Number 1, number 2. These are 2 different aspects of you that exist kind of like in a wholeness. So there's your interior self, that would be like number 2, and number 1 is your socially constructed self. So your name is Destiny, that's number 1. Number 2 has no name unless you give it a name. And the never ending story, what else is there? There's so many different fairy tales that tell you to name your number 2, name your interior self. Who are you in there? And the more that you start to interact with the fact that there is a outward self, the version of you that is doing all of the expressions, and the inward self, the version of you who wants those expressions done, the more you'll start to notice all of the details that kind of make up the timelessness of your, because number 2 is like your soul. It's a timeless aspect of you. This is when you're in flow state. So if you've ever just been in the zone before, in the zone, you're just doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, full total confidence, no questions asked. You're just in the zone. You may be writing, you may be doing something artistic, you could just be doing something super productive, whatever have you, but you're in the zone. You're tapped into something with more energy than your human body truly has. That is your soul. You're tapping into your soul. That's number 2. And your soul is an interior aspect. It can express itself. Like right now, anytime I'm teaching, I'm always sitting in number 2, generally speaking. Sometimes I'm going to slip in the here and there between 1 and 2. When I'm number 1, it's usually like you guys can see my eyes are getting tired. I start talking about how I'm sleepy. Occasionally, if I start talking about my husband, you'll see me slip into number 1. That's number 1 is like your human self. You know what I mean? This is so human. You've been socialized and conditioned and domesticated. You're superhuman. Number 2 is your soul. It's very primal. It's very animalistic. It's not a domesticated thing you can talk about and put in a box, so to speak. By the way, all y'all coming from Patreon, I'm so sorry I hit the X button. I did not mean to hit that button. I meant to hit a different button. So number 2, I hope that answers your question. Number 2 is very much your soul for the most part. I'm using Carl Jung's framework to talk about it. And he doesn't get that far in the autobiography so far where I'm at. I think he does talk about that more in his other works. And so I'm reading those, I'm going through them. I enjoy spending time with Carl simply because he gives me such an interesting viewpoint in on what's going on in the modern white man during a certain period of time. Um, to help understand like what happened when it came to the breakdown of spirituality, why they seem to be so lost in the dark as a like imperial and colonial like culture and stuff like that. One, because it's just like I guess this is just what I do. I feel very I also feel like Carl Jung and I are a bit kindred because in spirit, because he was kind of like that. He really wanted to do like paleontology and science on the one hand, and then on the other hand, he was interested in humanities. Number two, his soul wanted him to do that. It's like two totally different avenues, but they kind of met in the most interesting way. And he ended up being somebody who was looking for the truth in a society that was riddled in lies, riddled in them, you know? Um, and to the point where everybody's blacked out from what the truth is. Not only are they heavy under patriarchy, so the women in society, they for the most part, I mean, it's hard to know because the women are hunted. Like not only are they bought as property, this is like late 1800s, early 1900s, still to this day. You see in colonial spaces, women practice patriarchal ceremonies where they're like bought as property for the most part. Like how do I get him to pick me? It's the pick me culture. So not only are they bought as property, but also the number two, the soul is something that is like hunted into extinction in the West. Carl Jung kind of mentions as a kid he knew that he couldn't talk about it because like religion would just consume it. Like the people around him would be uncomfortable. They would go into an emotional kind of state where they're not necessarily in control of themselves because they haven't fully matured from the child state where you have a number one. The child state is to be your soul. Every child is the soul. And then they are conditioned into a number one. You are conditioned by society. You have a name. So if your name is Lulu, right, that would be that's not you. That's not who you are. That is how you've been conditioned because that is what people call you and you respond to it, right? It holds the meaning of me as a human who like navigates domestic life, right? This is your human self. Your number two, I like to tell people if you put your hands out like this, like you're holding water, no, this is number two, and you're in the palms. Okay. The human you is in the palm of your hands. Number two is holding you. Number two can barely understand what the fuck you're talking about most of the time, especially when you're like, taxes, taxes. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just like go drink some coconut water. Drink the coconut water. You like the fucking, she's drinking milk again. That's going to make her fart. That's like number two. It's like looking at you, you're kind of squeaking at it. Sometimes there's miscommunication because one's a giant and one's like a little thing in the palm of your hands that is domesticated and living in a world that it cannot see. Um I also I was talking about Yesteryear. It's a book. I think I'll pop it up here really quick. It's a book and it kind of has the same kind of idea that I want to throw out here is in the book she's an influencer, she's a trad wife, and then the satire of it is that she ends up trapped in the 1850s, right? But she's a trad wife in like 2026, so to speak. So, she's an influencer and stuff like that. The one thing about this book so that I've noticed so far, I'm like 25% of the way in, is you don't actually see the world. You see the world through her eyes, but we don't actually interact with culture outside. Like we have to assume culture based off of how you are interacting with her. Get what I'm saying? This is like this is a good example of I can't talk to Natalie in the book. I know about her culture based on my own experiences with culture, right? My own thoughts on it and stuff like that. I would be like number two. I'm outside of her, holding the literal book in my hands, and I'm just watching what's going on to her. Can I nudge her in any direction? No, I don't. I'm not actually connected to her. That like I'm not her soul. But if I was, how would I connect with her? How would I nudge her to maybe move a bit away from the crazy religious stuff and outside of like white society and colonial American society, and maybe like look into spirituality? Like, could I shove like Interstellar, shove a book off her shelf, or like she's in the bookstore and I like really bump into a table, or I pop out and scare a child, boo, and the child's like, ah, I'm seeing ghosts, and the child bumps into a table and a book falls off and it's Carl Jung, and I'm like, Natalie, pick up the Carl Jung book. Pick up the Carl Jung book. And so, and I'm focused on her so hard she almost trips over it. And then she's like, "What is this?" you know, like maybe as soul two, right? This is how you would talk to someone who ignores you, ignores the soul, right? Until finally she starts going, "I wonder what my soul would say," and then maybe I start. We develop a relationship. That's I feel like I just explained, life. But yeah, that's number two. Anybody else have any other questions before I pop off? You said there's a switch. Oh, yeah, a switch. So the ability to go back and forth between them is, so the switch is, you can do deep breathing. This is states of consciousness. The more developed your relationship is with yourself, the easier it is for you to switch from one state to another. For me, I just use a name. It like legitimately, it's like calling. You have to learn have the way that children do. Children are not bashful about having imaginary friends. Children aren't bashful about going into their imagination. They're not bashful about taking out of their imagination something to solve a problem in their real world, and it works. Children are not afraid to do that. I should say children of a certain era. The children who, had just the right amount of neglect and just the right amount of love, going outside and stuff like that, right? Children aren't afraid to give animals personalities and talk to the animal and know it, right? And animals interact with kids because of that. So you have to take from the child's perspective, give a name to your inner self, and this automatically helps you call yourself to you. You can have multiple names. You can have multiple names for different aspects of you. Sometimes I give different names to my different bodies. I have a spiritual body, an emotional body, a mental body, and my physical body. I am always connected to the human, me, as in Francina. I am always connected to my body. I cannot get out of my body. So I am the vessel, and I'm always experiencing the multifacetedness of me in my own head. So that would be me. That's one name down. The other three are based off of like just interacting with these energies. And the energies, I'm a writer, so it's easy for me to see a character who is faceless and spend time with that character until that character's name becomes relevant and comes up for me, right? But it's just like anybody that you meet. You don't go, "You're my soul. I know you," and whatever. Like, here's your name. Now get to it, bitch. Like, that's not how you meet a person. That's not how you meet anything in life. You meet it where you are. If you are in the stage of, this is all weird to me and I don't really know if I like is giving myself a name on the inside, that seems silly. I don't, if that's where you are, that's where the relationship is. You feel like it's silly to like interact with yourself. That's like going to the playground and talking to yourself, or sitting at an icebreaker or some type of like book club or some type of, I don't know, whatever gathering you go to, and you're like, "Oh, it's so silly to just like, talk to people about that." You're talking to yourself instead of talking to other people, or like trying to make that connection. Sometimes you make excuses. Just do it. Do it for fun. Do it for just to see what happens, and then you'll see what happens. You start developing like you'll start to notice when your energy is around. Oh, here's a good way to help too. Is it could be a pendulum. Okay, I always show people this one. It's a really simple one. So the pendulum, okay, let's get it still. Okay, now I'm going to hold my hand this way so you all can also see my hand, and I'll hold it up closer so you can see that I'm not I'm not breathing on it and stuff, okay? It doesn't need to be that long anyways. So first I'm just going to have it kind of still. So I'll wait until it goes still. Okay, that's kind of still enough. Now I want to know what yes means. All right, it's moving forward, backwards, and forward. Now I want to know what no means. It's slowing down. And now we're getting that left to right. You see it? It's real slight. It's going. It's harder when the chain's so small. But now I'll show you maybe with the chain a little bit longer. Ugh. Jesus Christ, I can't even. We'll go backwards like this. Okay. I'm trying to get my hand in here so you all can see that I'm not like rigging it from the side. But do it yourself. Do it yourself with a pendulum. So, okay, yes. Okay. And now, no. Let's get like the other one. Takes a little moment. And then we've got the other side. Okay. All I'm interacting with right now is my own energy. I'm asking for a direct, like, this is just like dousing in wells and stuff like that. The thing is you have to let your energy just move. My energy is, we are literally moving beings. I am not sitting still. I just appear to be still because none of you can see that fast or that slow, right? None of you can see the energy that exists that is me. You just see the physical me. But the energy that is me can move this back and forth one way or the other. And when you get used to that, right, then you get used to the energy that's doing it. I know when I'm sitting in myself as just a simply little human. Okay? Oh, especially when I'm emotionally done. Oh, God. Right? And then I know when I'm sitting in myself and I am my soul. It's like, I'm a little bit moved to the side. I'm totally integrated in, but I can tell that like there is something coming through that is not from my brain. It's not from my brain. It is from my auric field. It is from everything. It is from my soul. Sometimes my voice changes. You guys, well, it's hard for you, I guess, for you guys to notice because most of the time when I'm talking to you, I'm channeling. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this because it's too exhausting. I had to learn an awful lot to like move, how I move as a teacher is through soul only, because if not, then I will just yell at everybody for not knowing the same thing that I know because you were slowing me down by asking me questions, and that's annoying, and get away, and what do you want? Right? Like, I'm not a fun friend. Like, I'm a bad friend teacher. I cannot teach my friends. I will just yell at them. How did you like, why don't you know this yet? Why are you asking me this? How could you even make that mistake? Why would you say that to somebody? Who taught you? Who raised you? This is ridiculous. No, here, I'm going to write it out and then go do these things here. That's how I am as a friend teaching you. Because like, you've irritated me. Like, the anger that comes out is my soul. It's like somebody ring a bell, ching 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 ching, and my soul's like, this is after hours. What do you want? Like, this is not like, I'm only doing this because the human loves you. The soul's like, I don't know you. You're an ant and I want to smush you for waking me up from my slumber. What do you want? Now, as a teacher, my soul's like, hello everybody. Let's show you the pendulum. Because, I came to teach and you came to listen and to learn. So it is an equal exchange. I can move the energy and the energy replenishes itself. It goes out and it replenishes itself. That's why I can also sit here and talk for like 3 hours. Even though I kept telling you guys, you saw, if you were here from the beginning, I was tired. My eyes are still like this. My body is kind of like, getting back into the swing of things. But my soul is just capable. Would number 2 be an alter ego? No. Number 1 has alter egos and they're all ones. Number 2, you treat it like an alter ego, but that's because you're still focused on number 1. Number 2 just is. You will get to know what is number 2 because you will start to see aspects of it everywhere. So for me, anytime I watch a show, a movie, I read a book, or I interact with my husband, especially, there are things that are reverberated back to me that take my breath away because I have seen this before. I have felt this before. I have done this before. I know you. I could be watching a movie and just one of the characters and I'm like, oh, like I feel it's supernatural where I'm like, this whole character from a totally different culture. Chinese dramas, they get me all the time, all the time. I'd be like, from a totally different culture, this person is speaking to me very specifically. I could write in my journal, I'm so irritated, I don't know what to do, I don't know which way to go, I just feel lost. And then, you know, I go about my day, and then I'm like, let me go watch a drama or something like that. And then the guy comes on screen and he's like, stop being so lost. You already know where you're going. And it's a voice that I recognize. Now, this man's speaking to me in Chinese. How do I know that voice? I don't. And it's like, and then, I'll be like, oh, that was wild. And then I'll be like, all right. Well, instead of chastising me, maybe give me some answers. And my husband will come in and he'll be like, you know what I was thinking about? And it's that voice again. I'm like, oh, but that's usual. Maybe I'm freaking out, but I know him. This maybe I'm just being crazy. And then he'll give me the exact answer that I was looking for. He does it all the time, at least twice a day, all the time. It's so funny. Once I used to, oh man, I was a little paranoid at first. He was freaking me the fuck out with it, especially. But then again, like, he is my best friend. We are very much mirrored, and as we change in life, we change in ways that get like, when he changes, I see more of myself. When I change, I don't know what he sees. Maybe not, but I see more of myself. I see different things that when I was a kid, oh man, especially when we were kids, I always thought he was the strongest person I knew. Still is, really. And it was because he has this effortless way of putting one foot in front of the other, regardless of what's happening. There's just one thing to do, and that is to move forward. There's just one thing to do. Sometimes that's super positive, and sometimes, that can get him into a rut. He's kind of a Taurus in some ways like that. But nonetheless, he was strongest person I know. And I was outside and I was thinking about that. And it just came to me, the idea, I was talking about this earlier in class, that you face the thing that is stronger than you, and you know that it is stronger than you because it comes at you head on. And I was like, oh man, that's my husband. He's always come at me head on, like always, no matter what it is. No matter what aspect I am, if we're joking and we're having fun and we're just like riffing off skits with each other, he approaches it head on. If it's a romantic thing, it's a head on thing. If it doesn't matter what it is, if he wants it, he's going full step forward into it. And it made me think of a TikTok I saw. This girl, she was going into the woods. She didn't see the bear. It was right in front of her. I saw it. She didn't see it. I was like, damn, maybe that's not a bear. Then she screamed, and I was like, it's a bear. And I had thought back then, that's him. Now, I was having such an issue this morning. I was telling people I almost lost it in my journal. I was like, I'm so irritated. I demand this, and blah, 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 blah. I was just irritated. And then finally, I look at my phone, and he sent me. I went outside. I had that whole moment where I was like, wow, I really learned strength from him. Like, I learned strength by just observing him. And it reinforced my own influence, right? To be and to act stronger in some situations than I would have reflected on. In other words, I'm a naturally a strong person. I do a lot of things, but I don't reflect on that. I just go, oh, well, that's just me. But my ability to see and observe him, I then could see myself. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, I went inside to like go rest because I stand outside. It was nice air and stuff like that. And then I finally look at my phone for the first time in the day, and he sent me an anime edit about strength. And I almost wanted to ask, did you send this to me because, like, like, you knew that I was struggling, or did you send this before then because it reminded you of me? It didn't matter, but it was the sequence, right? This is my own soul talking to me, but it's like the choices that I made to be around someone that I love, that loves me, that respects me, that I respect, that we mirror each other in many different ways. Naturally speaking, the choice to do that makes that self mirroring really loud. It's really easy for my soul to get a message to me if I am so open to the message. And I'm very open, obviously, around my husband. How that sounded. I heard that. That too. But the point is that I'm very open, right? I'm very open to whatever, like, the energy that he has and that he pulls towards me, for better or for worse. That means, like, even if he's having a bad day, I have to be like, oh, that's not my bad day. That's his bad day. And then I'm like, oh, I want to make your bad day better. And then I'm like, gotta mind myself, mind my business, mind my business. It's his bad day. It's his bad day. He'll be fine. He'll feel better. And that's just naturally how you feel about people you care about. I'm like that with my kids too. It's like they get sick and I'm like, I need to help them overcome their sickness with the quickness. What do I give them? I'll give them the whole medicine cabinet. It's like, that's not helpful. That's not how that works. You just have to let them naturally go through like, I've talked myself off the cliff every time. But the reason why I say that is, you see how that's not an alter ego, that, like, the number two, there's no alter ego there. I am recognizing, it's like almost like uh it's like I'm in a room, and in that room there's so much sound bouncing off the walls that eventually a body is formed. Like, eventually this I wish I could draw this better. But the only reason why you can see a person here is because of the darkness around, not because the person exists. Look, there we go. The reason why you see a person is because there is darkness around that creates the figure. That's kind of your number two. The only reason you can see your soul is because everything else is contrast. So if my soul is saying, "You're strong. You're strong. Don't forget you are strong." I'm not going to hear, "I'm strong? Huh?" No, it's going to reverberate. That energy is being thrown at me. And if I'm open, I'm going to hear it in all its multiple ways that it's going to hit me. So it's going to come through. Oh, my husband sent me a TikTok edit, and it was about One Punch Man. And it was this great edit. It was like, "You're strong, not because someone said so, but because you prove it." By just, essentially putting one foot in front of the other. You prove that you were strong because you prove that you're stronger than you think by being that way, by just simply doing the little thing, that one step that proves it. And so therefore you know that you have proof that you are stronger than you think, and you don't have to put limits on you, right? So, like, that is like, how did that come to me? That came to me this way. It was the sounds, and it went through. My soul is speaking to me, but it's speaking to me through the entirety of my environment. That's not an alter ego. You can put a name on that, and it can feel like an alter ego when you embody that energy. Because what happens when this energy comes into your body? When, instead of it being in your environment, right, it comes into the body. Woo, it can feel like an alter ego for sure. But I prefer not to think of it as one, because that almost insinuates that I created it and it created me. Your soul created you. You are the alter ego. Can your number two be erotic? There is a vibrant sort of sacred connection that demands expression. Yes, yes, yes. No, it's very erotic. It is the most erotic energy that you can experience because it legitimately comes out of your sacral chakra. Like, it for sure is erotic. I'm always in some type of erotic romantasy with myself, to be totally frank and honest. That's why I'm I'm very adamant on people practicing compatibility. Because it like, how can you feel safe? And erotic doesn't always mean sexual, because sometimes it just means sensual. How can you feel safe and open? And that's regardless of whatever gender or sex you are. All people need the ability to be open and safe in order to take in themselves, right? So you have to, how do you take this into you? Well, oh my god, not this song. It's Teacher's Pet. And this song it's funny to me because oftentimes myself comes through. It's one of my more problematic moments. Myself comes through as a mentor all the time. So the energy that I sit at, the degree and stuff like that, tends to be like my Aries rising. Okay, tropical is 21 degrees, so that's like a Sagittarian degrees. It's a mentor. Now, my sidereal astrology, I like to think that that maps the soul because it's cosmic. That puts me at Aries in total, and it puts me at like a Pisces rising and stuff like that. But the Aries connection there, I become an Aries, and my soul is an Aries, but I am an Aries rising, so this is a way that we are connected, right? So sometimes, like in my dreams, my soul comes to me as a teacher, but there's some type of erotic undertone all the time. And I wake up and I'm like, do I have this type of issue? What is going on? Because generally speaking, I don't do that with like teachers. I don't do the erotic thing. I've always found that to be strange, like when peers would like fall in love with their like older teachers and stuff. But then also at the same time, I love wisdom. It's like it's a thing. I'm just never erotic that way towards teachers, but you know. Oh, so yeah, this song, Teacher's It's a song that came on one day after I had this wild dream that like I thought about it this morning. I was a student and the teacher he found like my journal about him or something like that, and I remember I set the whole school on fire or something like that. Or there was a fire at the school. I can't remember. It was a very bizarre dream. And I was like, "Oh my god, what realm was that and who and what was going on there?" But I recognized the teacher as my soul because it was a figure that comes around all the time. So I was like, why show up as a teacher? And also but that's the unconscious, you know what I mean? Dreams are dreams. They dreams don't care about societal feelings and stuff like that about what is a faux pas and what isn't, and power dynamics. Like the soul is legitimately the power dynamic that exist in you. It's like that is the ultimate power dynamic is between you and the soul. So that's why it's really important to like sit and ask yourself, what does this mean, and how do I feel, and all that kind of stuff, and take the number one, personality number one, the social aspects out of the relationship between you and yourself at a primal level. And then you understand, yeah, a lot, but you can see when people project that outward. Now imagine I have that dream and then I go like like I'm a student, and let's say I have there's a college professor, and we could be the same age or something like that, but he's a teacher, and instead of me sitting with that dream and realizing the faceless person is my own soul, right, and we're interacting, sacral chakra is being activated, kundalini is coming up, I'm having a download, so an awakening. If I don't know that that's happening to me, and then I wake up and then I go to class and I'm like, what if my teacher has a crush on me? Because like my teacher calls on me all the time because I raise my hand all the time because I'm interested in the class, and teachers naturally like the students that are interested, and then I just confuse all that to be some type of sexual thing going on between me and the teacher, all because I refuse to just turn around and look at myself. That happens to people all the time. That's limerence. That's how projection and stuff like that happens, and people are confused, and then like it's like, well, when someone projects, what does the teacher do in that instance, especially if they're both adults? Well, understand the power dynamic. They're human. They're human. They're going to do something weird and fucked up. They're human in a colonial society. That's not going to go well. Maybe in a different cultural setting, there could be a little bit more bars in place or something like that. But these people are undergoing limerence right now. Do you think we dream to work out constructs within ourselves or things from waking life? Well, yeah, you're dreaming right now. Your dreaming is legitimately okay. When you're awake, your brain will control more because you get fixated on an idea. You're not just going to let it float by. So if an idea floats by, like your friend, you think, that was kind of weird that they said that. That was a weird tone. I didn't like that tone. They've been hanging around Ruby lately, and Ruby's a bitch, right? Now you're fixated on the idea, and you want to know if they're talking about you. And if they really, and then so now you're on Instagram and you're looking them up and shit like that. You don't do that in the dream. In the dream, if somebody had a weird tone, you're like, that person's a bitch. And then you like go off somewhere else. But that's because you have less control to like as stuff is passing by, because the dream state is just information and your story, your brain, think of it as like a bunch of floating files. Okay, it's just passing by. And if you stop and you reach out and you grab one, you're using feeling to reach out and grab because that's animation. You're using whatever feeling you're in. So if you're angry that day and you haven't absolved that you haven't eaten yet and you've been busy and and like three people have pulled your attention, even though you have a sign on your door that says do not disturb, and now your boss is asking for some crazy shit that you should have done by now if you hadn't had to stop to do all this. And then someone sends you a text message, right? That's information that comes by. You're going to reach at that text message with your feelings of frustration. And someone could say something neutral, but you're reading it through a negative tone. And that started the whole argument about Ruby and this friend talking shit behind your back. And you guys are supposed to hang out tonight. And you're going to, because you already said that you would, even though you don't feel like it. And so now you're walking into a situation carrying all this frustration, all this anger, and limerence because you think that they're talking about you because you read a text message in a weird, funky kind of way. And then now you're going to say something snappy. And they're trying to figure out why the fuck you're acting like this. And you're like, I'm not acting like anything. See, I knew it. I knew it because you wouldn't even have thought to say something like that if you guys weren't talking shit about me. And they're like, "What?" And you're far gone. Yeah, you see how that happens? You're dreaming all the time. It's just when you're asleep, you're less likely to careen your life into a wall. Although sometimes that happens too, right? I think I was running. I told you everybody I was running from pirates earlier. I don't know what the fuck was going on. It was like the mafia. I don't know. It was weird. It was interesting. There were dragons at some point, and I was like, "Holy shit, what the fuck?" I think I was a dragon, and I like, but I couldn't do fucked up stuff to them yet. And like, I was in the middle of a heist or something. I don't know. It was weird. But you see, like, I'm not able to control anything there. Like I'm lucid enough to be to like pay attention to what's going on and interact and things like that. But I'm not like hyper fixated on anything. The dream is just going to keep going, and push me along. Next thing I know, I'm in water. How the fuck did we get here? I don't know. Now it all makes sense all of a sudden. Yeah, because Tom dropped me off in a boat. Of course it makes sense why I'm in water at the airport. And the boat is also a plane. Like, it just makes sense. Your brain's just like that when you're asleep. But when you're awake, you're like, I knew that bitch was talking shit about me. And like, because she said plane weird. Like, she's like, didn't you already book the plane tickets? Why did she say that? Like, you're hyper fixated. Now you're thinking. You're thinking instead of just like observing. And when you're asleep, you tend to observe more. Um, The Snake by Lana Dubani. The snake. That's the Kundalini, though. But that's just to circle back to whoever asked earlier. Was that you, Destiny? Maybe. Um, yeah, the connection between you and the soul, root, sacral, and then solar plexus, like it goes through your sacral, it comes into you. And so that is an erotic experience in its own, which is why puberty and stuff like that tends to awaken more hormones and more like facets of what the soul can do in the body. But that also means that like now a whole being is capable of projecting all of that energy onto another. Whereas a child is less likely to project all of that energy onto another because they haven't even experienced enough life here yet to know what the fuck half that energy is. But once those little sensors turn on, those little hormones turn on, now they're like, huh, not only am I curious about what this is, I feel things. And I'm curious, but also don't really know what to do. So if they don't have tools, they'll just project. If there's like a ritual and initiation into adulthood, then they get tools and they know what to do with that energy. And that's where a lot of indigenous cultures practice rituals and stuff like that. And it's all depends. It's all context based. That's why it's also important to say you can't just hop into somebody's cultural understandings. You can't be like, oh, I don't have rituals, so I'll just borrow somebody else's culture, because that comes with a lifetime of also like akashic memory. So a child is raised on myths, on stories, on ritual, seasonal, daily, and yearly patterns of an entire community, an entire ecosystem. And their ritual is based in that ecosystem, in the context of that ecosystem. So if someone says take the kids out and have them go do a hunt and all this other stuff, like that might actually not even take place in the physical plane of reality. That could all mean something metaphorical to that entire culture that you don't even have context for, so you'll just go do the literal thing and it has nothing to do with the literal thing, or you'll like understand it in the Western perspective, but it has nothing to do with the Western perspective. Like it's on a total different plane of existence. That's what's wild about culture and why spirituality. That's why I'm always like, yeah, the colonial spaces, their spiritual practices are primitive. Hence why, they think that the indigenous people were primitive because they could they thought so because they could not reach the heights. They did not have the language, they did not have the stories, they did not have the ecology to be able to understand what people were communicating to them. And that's remedial, so you have to learn that stuff in order to understand. And even learning is a lifetime. That's it's a whole thing. But anyways, that's it for today, y'all. I need to go so that I can eat and sleep. What time is it? It's only 8:14. I'm sleepy though now. I think I'm gonna read some more of that book, Yesteryear. I don't know if it gave me weird dreams though. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Colonial stuff is always weird. I'm always like, because it's always so. It's like it knows the truth and then it inverts it. Like last thing I'll say, Natalie from Yesteryear. She knows, like she has a relationship with God, but the relationship is ooh, here's an image that I think a lot of you will know. The relationship is like this. I am me, and took this where that heart should be. And then trying as if I should through. And bring the best of you. Okay. This is like a curtain or something. Ew. Breath by Breaking Benjamin. Start hating. Oh, I'm waiting. I'm praying. Realize. Start hating. You take the breath right out of me. You left a hole where my heart should be. Okay, so here's an image that I think you all will kind of recommend, or not recommend, but recognize. So this is Natalie, that's her name in the book. And this is a priest, and this is a little confessional booth, okay? This is her relationship with God. She's not Catholic, she doesn't go to a confessional booths or anything. But she like talks to God as if it's a man behind a curtain, and the man doesn't talk back. Okay. So her relationship with God, her relationship with her number two is like a man behind a curtain who's watching. Who's watching. And she better do the right thing. And she better practice gratitude for all the stuff I gave her. I gave her a husband, and her husband has an inheritance and money. And I gave her children. I gave her so many children. And that's how she knows that she's really fertile and she's really abundant, because she has lots of babies. I'm watching. All that's happening. And like, but like he never says that. She just knows that that's happening. And she's on the other side. You see, it's like she knows that it's there, but there's no relationship. And she doesn't know that that's not a relationship. It's like having an absent father and being like, I have a dad. And it's like, oh yeah? And then like you find out this person like hasn't seen their dad since they were 6. They're like, yeah, we talk every now and again. Oh yeah? And like that means that he sends a birthday card like every once in a while when he remembers. And like once he called. And it's like, to someone who has a relationship with their father, that's not really a dad. You know what I mean? That's a sperm donor. That's a flyby. You know what I mean? It's there's no relationship. That's kind of how I see the West. It's like they know that something's there, but there's no relationship. And for the most part, the relationship is shrouded. It's shrouded in secrecy. And because it's shrouded in secrecy, it's also shrouded in and what's the feeling that you get from being secret? Guilt and shame. That's why the Catholics with their confessional booths and stuff, theirs is so much more like sexual, where they're like Jesus is watching me, and if I'm naughty, God's gonna get upset. We'll just have to see what happens then, because if he punished me, at least I know he's there. I know he's watching. It's like that's kind of weird. That's a weird relationship. It's erotic. It's also like repressing that eroticism, and then Puritans are like disgusted about the erotic, so they're like, if you feel anything, you're bad. You can't feel stuff. That's weird and bad. Oh my God, I can't believe you felt erotic towards God. You're a whore. It's like that. And it's like, whoa, whoa, that's weird behavior. That's a weird thoughts. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, that's how I feel every time I look over to that section or I read anything. I'm like, oh, this is some weird, this is kind of perverse. It's strange. It's strange. And it need not be all those things. It just is. You know what I mean? Like this, the energy, your soul is not your father, it's not your brother, it's not your son, it's not your husband, it's not any of those things. It's a soul. It's a soul. And Freud was kind of right when he says all of this culture is just to keep us from having sex with your soul, Freud, not with other people, just your soul. All that culture is in the colonial, imperial, and colonial West specifically, like in Europe, the colonization specifically, that culture is to keep people from integrating, intercoursing with their soul. And that is a feeling. You can do whatever you want, in your own personal time, you know what I mean? But it's more of the feeling of euphoria and orgasmic bliss that you experience with yourself, because that's just what you feel in those areas when it's lighting up. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be sex. It can be, and that's fun. But it doesn't need to be. If you want to imagine that while it's happening, excellent. I love to, because it's a great time. However, you need not imagine that. You can imagine other things. You can paint. You can imagine a dance, and that's also the same exact fucking thing, because it's creative energy. That's all. One can resort to sex, but creative energy is just creativity. You can do something that's like causes you to have a lot of adrenaline, like jump out of a plane, I guess. I don't know if that's creative, but you get the point. Yeah, it's just that's all it is. And trying to like compartmentalize it or make it one thing, or trying to understand it as if you create it, is the wrong way to go. Understand that it created you. And sometimes that can feel, that's where the whole fatherly thing comes from, and it's like, but it's not your father. You are a progenitype. Is it no, it's a progenitor, I guess that's the word. It came before you, but only in the process of things. The same way a sibling can come before you. It need not, it created you because it existed, and then you can exist. So meaning that your soul existed and you were like a soul, and then you were a person, like you had a physical body that you went into, and then that physical body got a name, and you laughed at weird stuff, and so they called you weirdo, and that's your personality. You're the weirdo. And then you get out of your small town and people call you really talented and a magician, and now you work at Vegas and you're a magician, and nobody calls you a weirdo. Everyone thinks that you're really cool, and you get all the ladies. Boom. Suck it. But see, all that's a personality one. All that can change based on your environment. um you know what I mean? So like that is what happened to your soul. Your soul came first. You had to be a soul before you could be a magician in Las Vegas. All right, everybody. That's it. I will see you all on Saturday. We'll be live for the art club. You all can feel free to join. We're making maps of our inner world. We're doing some finals drafting of it. So, always feel free to join. You can Go over to Patreon as well if you want to see the other sessions where I talk about different things, where I introduce the project and then talk about different aspects of it and the point of it and stuff like that. But I'll probably cover that sort of stuff on Saturday as well. And then on Tuesday, we have book club, first 12 chapters of The Wizard of Oz. That's the first American fairy tale for you. What would personality 2 be in that example? What example? Your soul. It's just your soul. It's your soul. It just is. It is. It just exists. You, the magician in Vegas, is a personality and an experience that your soul is like collecting. Okay? If I put you on a spaceship, Breezin, that's your name. That's your soul. Now you represent a soul. If I put you in a spaceship and send you to planet Quagmar, and on planet Quagmar, you are going to pretend to be a woman of the night, and you will have many suitors, and you will take the lives of 2. This is turning into a noir. You're going to join up and team up with a detective, and you guys are going to figure out who's been, I don't know, stealing all the popcorn out of the movie theaters. Okay? And then you're going to come back to Earth. I'm going to wake you up. You, Breezin, are the soul that experienced that whole saga. And on Quagar, you were called a Quagen. That is Quagar's version of a human. You see, you experienced something, but you aren't Quagar. You don't even know what that is. In fact, you'll probably forget that name in about 7 to 10 business days. And that's probably how your soul probably feels about you sometimes. You know what I mean? Not you, totally. Like, you will remember the experience that you had, but you're going to forget all the details. You know, your soul's like, I don't remember the details, like your best friend fucking Brenda. I don't care about that bitch. You barely liked her. You just let her hang around all the time. She almost fucked everything up. Good thing, you know, I had Chad come in and distract her with a bad marriage. Otherwise, she would have really set you on the bad path, right? Like, your soul's kind of like that. They don't really care about all the details. They just want to have that. They want you to experience fully the life that it set out to live. And you set out to go to Quagar to have a full fucking experience of being like a woman of the night in a noir detective novel. You know what I mean? That's what you selected. So if you go there and people keep trying to get you to sign up for the fucking circus, after a while, you're going to be like, what the fuck is with this simulator? Bang, bang. I want my money back. It's like a Rick and Morty episode. I want my money back. What's going on with the simulator? Right? You might be on your off hours, or you're not like in the simulation. You might go up to customer service and you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is the Nor detective one, and I can't get past the circus thing. And they go, oh, you just have to stop hanging around, you know, Quagnamar number 57. He sometimes wears a mustache, and you're like, oh, that motherfucking weirdo? Yeah, the mustache guy. You got to get past the mustache guy. Just agree with him and then walk away. But I don't agree with him. You don't have to. Just agree that you agree that he sees that way. You don't have to say, I also see that way. You can just say, I can see how you see that, and then walk away. And then you put on your little helmet and you go back to Quagmire and you're like, I see how you see things. And he goes, ha! I knew you'd come around to seeing the way I see. And then you walk off. And then you're past that part. And then you meet the detective and you're like, oh, finally. Like, I know this is crazy. Why am I so in depth with this? But like, you see how like that whole thing happened. Your soul will also eject out of your simulation and go bitch at somebody sometimes. Mine does all the time. I sometimes pop in. I am connected to myself, so I can hear things that are happening in other places and spaces. So I can tell when my soul is pissed and frustrated, and then strange things start happening in my surroundings, like strange anomalies happen. If I have been wronged, all of a sudden, like, weather phenomena start happening, and I'm like, well, you know, it's a bit much to say that it's all me. Of course, it's not all me, but my mind is being drawn towards certain things because my soul is in certain pitches and resonances. That's why sometimes you wake up and you are feeling splenetic. Splenetic means foul or irritable in the morning. You ever wake up and you're like foul? You're just angry and frustrated, and then like you just naturally move out of that energy or something, or let's say it has nothing to do with you taking care of yourself. Like, you don't need any coffee or anything like that. You just wake up and you feel foul, and then you take a shower and all of it washes off of you, and you don't know why you were just so irritated. If you've ever been like that, it is consciousness, yes. So if you've ever been like that, yeah, you probably carrying resonance from where your soul is. Your soul can be in the hell realms and not have problems, but if you are conscious of being in the hell realms, but you also don't know that you are in the hell realms, so you're just experiencing life and you feel irritated, you are in hell, but you are looking at your world and you're like, well, this motherfucker got my order wrong. And then it turns out you took the wrong cup, you took the wrong order, and you're like, oh my god, everything's just going wrong. Yeah, your soul's probably somewhere in a hell realm or something like that, and you haven't like woken up to that yet and raised your own level of awareness so that you were out of that and in your own space. That's what I mean about like going inward and knowing whether you are in. When something's going haywire in the outside world, go inside. Go inward. Where are you, soul? What is happening? What is going on? And something will start to click into place and stuff like that. And the more consciousness that you have in general, the more conscious you are of the states that you're in and where different aspects of you are, your body tells you all that information. So like if you are in a state that should not be doing work, this happens to me. If I have work stuff on my bed and I'm not supposed to do work, I'm supposed to rest. If I go into my room, I will feel negative. I will feel negative until I remove the work stuff out of my room. And then I put it on my desk. Then all of a sudden I go into my room and I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable. And it's because the work thing is going to ping me and ask me to work. And I will likely say yes because I enjoy doing my work, even though I should be resting. So your body will tell you stuff all the time. And that's your soul. Your soul talks to you through your body. It's just, are you listening? And do you have a good way of talking? That's why I told everybody the pendulum is a nice thing to do if you're really trying to get used to your own energy. It also gets you into the place of asking yes or no questions instead of like constantly open-ended things that need somebody to explain like, why hasn't this happened yet? That is an explanation that you were looking for, and you are looking for a future teller, and you're looking for your soul to come down and be like, well, the reason why we haven't gone through with X, Y, and Z is because we need the pizza guy down the street to trip on a pizza in front of this guy, and this guy is going to have a really bad day and piss off this lady, and because he pissed off that lady's actually going to be really happy because she finally gets to catch this guy who's always been coming in here doing X, Y, and Z, but she gets to catch him in the moment, and then she's going to get him fired, and that's going to get her promoted later on down the line, and she's going to hire you. But that's not going to happen for at least 2 months. So we got to let that happen first, because the pizza incident thing, we're just waiting for the pizza guy to be on this route, and that's not going to happen until 39. Oh, no, wait, hold on. We got it. We got a guy. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, we got another guy. Another guy's coming through. He's going to do the pizza. Nope. We're moving it up to like 7 days. Yeah, this is going to happen in 7 days. Like, can you imagine getting a phone call like that when you're like, when's this going to happen for me? And somebody explains to you like all of the things that are going to happen in your city for this thing to line up for you in the right way, because you are not the only person in reality. Although it is your reality, you still rely on other people to like move in it, right? Yeah, that'd be kind of wild. It'd be kind of wild. I mean, it could happen. Some people are a little bit more tapped in that way and can handle that power, but no man should have all that power to just know like how everything plays out all the time. You wouldn't want to live. You'd be bored. You'd be done. You'd be like, what is the point of living if I'm just waiting for all these things to just happen? Because that's not life. That's not life. I was reading Moomin saying, do I have it right here? It's too far away. Moomin is a comic strip from the Netherlands, Finland, maybe. I don't remember, but Johnson Tove. I don't remember the author's name, but Moomin is a comic strip, and I was reading some of it earlier. And there's a whole passage where Moomin's like a hippo, and he's pretty docile and dumb. And then there's Snuff the kangaroo, and he's like wants to get quick, fast, and famous in a hurry. And the whole point of the first strip is, Snuff is trying to go around getting quick and getting rich quick and shit and getting fame. They find a fortune teller. The fortune teller tells them how it's going to happen. And Snuff is like, that's fucking stupid. No, we're not waiting around on some chick. So how about we just jump into the fortune telling business? Anyways, everything he does is absolutely fucking terrible and gets most people to hate them. Like everything falls apart. Except for the fortune teller thing, it happens. It happens the way that she said that it would. They get famous and they get money, and Snuff almost ruined it all, but even he couldn't ruin it all because Moomin was always going to do what Moomin does. So the point here is that fate is always going to happen to you. Fate is already happening. It is just the journey that how do you entertain yourself between those plot points that are already happening? Like the way that they were going to get rich is it by Wally Woods? No, Moomin is by Tove Jansen. Moomin. Sir, Moomin. And the moral of the story of Moomin here is like, he's supposed to meet this woman and she needs help and they're supposed to help her and it turns out like, she's being like kidnapped or something. And so they go to find the Snuff is like, "Man, leave that bitch. We don't need a woman. We don't need a woman, right? All that kind of crazy shit." And Moomin's like, "Oh no, I like her." So he goes over and then like they're talking and she wants to do a dress competition and she goes to do the dress competition and she wins. But she wins money and then Moomin buys her he buys her a bunch of jewelry. So Snuff is of course like, "I can't believe you spent all our money on a bitch, come on. That's crazy. We could have, because this was their moment to get rich and to like, have fame." And then he's like, "Plus, like, people are just gonna steal it off you anyway." So naturally some thugs come by, these little caveman dudes, and they kidnap her. And so Moomin's like, "I'm gonna go get my woman." So he goes to get her, and I can't remember what happened. Let me see. Oh yeah, the wizard guy. He comes and they get rid of the bandits or whatever. And then it turns out, guess what? Our girlfriend, while the bandits were being chased off, she found all their treasure, and so now they're rich. And that's the whole point. Is like, you see how it literally had nothing to do with anything that Moomin and Snuff were doing, except for just like seeking her out or at least like showing up. They knew that she was like, just show up for her in some way, shape, or form. And she's the one who gave them all of the treasure and stuff like that. And so it's like, yeah, there's other people have to do other things. There need to be bandits sometimes. Sometimes there's got to be other things going on to make all of this work. And so when people try to make it all work as a human being, when you try to chase down or seek whatever you're looking for, um you're ignoring the fact that like other people play a part too. It's not a solo game. You may be able to level up solo, but you're still waiting on the rest of the map to like render. Still waiting on everybody else to get to somewhere for that thing to happen. And that's a whole thing in itself too, because it's not as simple as that, because we have systematic issues and stuff like that add into things. But and that's a whole nother level to it, because that's a spiritual level, and there's been a lot of toppling of false systems and stuff like that. And that doesn't look the way that people in the West think it looks. When you were conquered, spiritually, you don't know, you just are. That's the scary thing. It's like yesteryear. She's conquered spiritually, right? She's trapped in like 1850s. She doesn't know it, but all of like the angry women who leave terrible comments and stuff like that, and like General America, who's not a trad wife, they can see that, but she can't. So she has been conquered by patriarchy. She doesn't know that. She's convinced that she has won. See, spiritual conquering is a really fucking it's a mess. That's why I'm always telling people it's important to like practice your spiritual tools and to know what those are. It's just tools of consciousness. That's it. Do you know what you were consenting to? Do you know what you were doing? Do you know why you were here? Do you know who you are? Do you know your interior versus your personality? Do you know these things? Do you know yourself? When you know yourself, you're good. What's your definition of spiritual? Well, spiritual is everything that's non-material. So it encompasses everything. It is non-material. So if it's not material, it is spiritual, meaning everything that comes into being. It is the chaos from which everything else is born. And consciousness is how you navigate that, because consciousness exists in the imagination where everything is non-material. So if I start, I mean, I'm talking right now, but if we were to just talk about philosophy, this exists in the mental realm, right? Because it is information, and we are arguing over our analyzed material information. So philosophy would say, would use proofs. This is true, and like, this is provable because it is material. So therefore this that is also provable, because it's material, these two things exist, and so and so and so, right? Like logic and philosophy says, I analyze the material, and so all of my analyzing, these are words, thoughts, and ideas that I've gathered from it. This is now in the mental realm, because it's not material, but it's mental. But it's mental stuff about what is quantified to some degree, and to some degree what isn't quantified, right? But once you get to the stuff that you cannot prove, that is not quantified, it becomes spiritual. It is something that exists in the non-material realm, but the only way that you can understand it is generally through experience, through the processing of it, digesting of it, right? So emotions exist in this realm, but are not just purely spiritual. Emotions just are. Spiritual is the animation, it is the organization of that chaos by your intention. So you have intent, you are a that's your consciousness. You create intent, and that organizes the chaos that is both non-material and material. That is how you can form reality in front of you. A good way of, I think, if you look into Malidoma, Patrice Somme's book. I'll show you in just a second. This book. It can be really helpful to you, simply because Malidoma has to undergo. He is kidnapped by Jesuits, and so he experiences spiritual, like, upheaval. And that is when someone goes through and tells someone what they can and cannot believe, and forces their will for another way. So you have to write in my language. You have to learn my language. You have to speak to me in this way. You must. There's no autonomy, no agency, right? You must do what I say. That is spiritual upheaval. That's spiritual usurpation. And then he goes through spiritual reclamations, where he goes back to his own village and he gets initiated. So he has to undergo the spirituality of his own people. And then that's when he learns what he had lost, what was taken from him by the Jesuits, and also what he gained, what insights were gained, because now he has two cultures within him, where only, generally speaking, people generally just have one. Especially during this time period, which is like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, so to speak, in like West Africa, through French colonialism in West Africa. And before then, too, as well. This is just when it takes place for Malidoma. But spiritual is like, what are the stories that make you? What is the stories that makes the ecology that you live on? What is the history that was passed on to you? The pattern that we are all weaving on a tapestry. Do you know that that exists? If it's all of those questions that exist in the spiritual, because it is not something that is in the material. It is something that is captured and then artistically rendered by story, in some way, shape, or form, whether that be oral, written, dance, things like that. So the spiritual is everything that is captured, and expressed outward to some degree. And that's the soul. The soul is legitimately capturing things and getting you to express them outward. That's how, yeah, it's just how that goes. All right, everybody. I gotta go now. I'm sleepy. Yeah, come chill. Saturday, Tuesday, we're doing art club, book club. And then, we'll have class again next Thursday. And any of you who are interested, if you don't know, Midnight Scholar Society, I mean, not only have podcasts and newsletter, but also Patreon, classes, things, all sorts of stuff. Many different things that you can find over there. I have writing lectures. I have lots of lectures on consciousness. Josh, hello. I mean, I've been thinking about you, especially since I'm working on my manuscript. I was like, huh. But yeah, I have lots of stuff over there. You guys go check that out. Many different variations. Okay, I gotta go now. I'm tired.